Naruto, Tsunade, Kakashi and Gaara after the fight with I Otsutsuki were sucked to another dimension with unexpected company to read the life of Naruto the Caterpillar. So without a further ado, let's start. Well, that was something. Tsunade raised an eyebrow at the silver-haired man. That's all you have to say? Kakashi shrugged. What am I supposed to say? I can't believe she's a demigod? It's been somewhat hinted at already. Yes, but not in that manner. Tsunade glanced at Diana, who hadn't left Naruto's side yet. If they were talking, they were doing so too quietly for her to hear. I'll admit, I didn't see that coming either. Kakashi admitted. But if there's anything I'm glad about now, it's that if we have gods, they've distanced themselves from us. Tsunade snorted. Why? I don't think any goddess would ignore other men to pursue one who reads porn in public. You might find it hard to believe, Lady Tsunade, but I'm a very handsome man underneath this mask. Kakashi smiled. In fact, I keep a gun at all times to keep people from falling hopelessly in love with me. You're right, I find that very hard to believe. Tsunade said. Take it off, let me see for myself. Kakashi shook his head. I won't because I care about your sanity. Besides, I can't take it off here, maybe in a more secluded place. You know, if I didn't hear the beginning, I'd take what you just said the wrong way. Gaara said as she casually floated above their heads. Kakashi could see why Diana found the girl's habit of barging into conversations annoying. Are you that bored that you decided to come to us? Hey, it's not that, you're interesting people. Gaara smiled down at them. When Kakashi didn't budge, she sighed and floated down. Yet, I just want to know more about your world. Interested in coming over, are you? Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Let's go with that. She said. The comics said a lot about their world, but there were a lot of things that still went unsaid and Naruto only knew so much. Plus, it'd give her more points to lord over Barbara with. I doubt Naruto's told you everything that isn't confidential. Tsunade shrugged. You're better off asking Gaara if you want to know about more places than Konoha. Gaara glanced at the redhead who busied himself by making small talk with Jean. To call it small was an overstatement considering the two exchanged questions with even shorter replies. I think I'm good for now. Well, Naruto's free now. I'll leave you two to it. Kakashi and Tsunade watched her awkwardly float away before the former cleared his throat. Well, she's gone now. Now about my mask. Horizontal ellipsis. Hey, Naruto. Is she alright? Gaara pointed at Diana, who hadn't moved from where she was. I get that the last chapter was heavy, but that's a bit much, don't you think? Naruto sighed. She spent millennia thinking she was made of clay only to find out from a book that she only exists because a horny god decided to disguise as her mother's boyfriend and sleep with her. Yet, I'd probably be in a slump too after that. Gaara grimaced. Yeah. I know this is coming out of left field, but you've been to prison, right? Gaara asked. Where did you hear that? Naruto frowned. He was sure she hadn't arrived at the time he said that. Barry and Oliver told me. She lied. And you look really put off by Starfire's situation. It's the look you only get when you can relate, you know. I see. Naruto said slowly. Either Gaara was a lot better at reading him than he'd given her credit for, or that was a telltale he didn't know he had. So why'd you ask? What's it like there? Is it as dangerous as people say it is? Like don't drop the soap or you'll get raped and you could get stabbed just because someone feels like it. Naruto snorted amusedly as his mind traveled back to his time in Hizuki Castle. It was bad. The food was shit, you had to watch your back all the time, the guards were sadists who tortured prisoners whenever they could get away with it, and there were days where things got really bad. Something told her he wasn't telling her everything. So people got into jail fights a lot? Like those ones where you went around shanking everyone you saw? Not as much as you think. Naruto chuckled. But then again, there are different types of fights, at least when I was there. There were the don't fuck with me fights. It's public, loud, showy. You use someone as an example and drag it out so people know what you can do. It's just to give yourself a reputation of sorts, you know, not because you have anything against your opponent. He noticed a few other people listening to him, but continued anyway. And then, there's the real fights. The personal ones that happen hidden prying eyes. The private ones where you fight with every intent to kill. They're brutal, they always end in a few seconds and nobody knows about it until the body gets brought out. You never get into those without a reason worth dying for. Gaara licked her suddenly dry lips. Oh. So, did you get into any of those? That's not something you ask, Gaara. Oh, I'm sorry. It's fine. Naruto said. I spent a lot of time in solitary, and when I didn't, few people actually confronted me. Why? Did your reputation precede you or something? Gaara asked. No, I tried to fight the warden on my first and second day, and barely a month later, I broke out of the inescapable prison. Oh, aren't you a Schofield? Gaara teased. What? What are you talking about? Naruto squinted. Is that another television reference? Yet, Schofield planned to break out of his prison. Pulled it off too. More like I jumped off to my potential death and I got rescued. Naruto corrected her. Really? Some guy was just staying outside the prison? What was he doing? She was a prisoner too, just really good at sneaking around cause she went pretty much everywhere she felt like. Another lady, huh? You two sound very close. Gaara muttered. She knew Ryuzutsu was dead, and Blood Prison was apparently canon, but now that she got to meet him herself, she realized that he did know too many women for her liking. Naruto smiled a tad bitterly. We never got the chance to get very close, but I wish we did. Gods do I wish we did. Gaara frowned. How many things were different in his world? Did you love her? Awfully forward, wasn't she? Naruto thought. Are you asking out of jealousy or to satisfy your curiosity? Naruto shook his head. It depends, really. What exactly would you call love? What's the difference between love and camaraderie, and at what point does the second become the first? Does it even matter? She had my back and I had hers. I trusted her with my life just as much as I'd have sacrificed it for her, just as she trusted me with hers. Was that love? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Either way, I was content with what we had. But I suppose it doesn't matter considering she's dead now. Naruto's tone turned morose as he remembered how her death had reduced him to a mess for a spell. It stung him even more because her death felt like it could have been avoided completely. She'd neither been afraid of Satori nor had any intent on killing it. The only reason he got her at all was because she'd tried to save him, and whatever chance she had of surviving the demon's claw was forfeit when she chose to revive him. They hadn't known each other for a long time, but she'd done more for him in months than most had his entire life, and he'd readily give up anything to have her back. Focus on the living, Kirima had told him. The tailed beast had claimed the dead had no business dwelling anywhere other than his memories, and even if he knew it was the truth, it was easier said than done. In spite of himself, he couldn't help thinking about what could have been. Gaara mentally slapped herself. I'd have loved to meet her, she seems like someone I'd have gotten along with. Naruto let out a small laugh. You probably wouldn't. She wasn't easily amused, and it took a lot to get her to open up. I'd have found a way. She insisted. If you say so. Naruto nodded amusedly. Gaara found it more than a little concerning how easily he went from looking like he'd cried to being all smiles again. He stuffed his hands in his pockets. Anyway, we should probably get to the next chapter. Gaara frowned, but nodded. She knew when she'd dredged up memories best left untouched. We should, but if you want someone to share, baggage with, I'm here. At least for the time being. Naruto smiled at her gratefully. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. Now let's get back to Diana. I'm sure she'll appreciate company even if she says otherwise. Gaara smiled back. Things had gotten a little too deep for her, and she just hoped the coming chapter would have something like mindless action, anything except for another sad chapter that would turn Naruto or Diana sober again. Horizontal ellipsis. Nobody had words to exchange, so everyone took their seats in silence, and Clark tried to open the book, but it refused to budge. The man frowned and tried to pry it open with more strength, but to no avail. Something wrong, Clark? Oliver asked, noticing how much the man was straining. The book won't open. Clark grunted. What do you mean? We're 10 chapters in and nobody's had an issue before. Oliver asked. Yes, but now we do. Clark glared at the book. Here, you try it. He gave the book to the archer, who tried to open it, but was met with the same result. It's like someone closed the pages together with Gorilla Glue. Oliver tried to slip his fingers in between the pages and hissed in pain as a sharp pain traveled up his fingertip. And it almost crushed my finger. Fucking great. You want to go with this, babe? If Clark couldn't open it, I don't have much of a chance. Dinah refused. Bats think fast. He tossed the book at Batman, who caught it with a hand. Batman hummed and thought as the eyes on his cowl glowed blue. There's nothing wrong with it. So it just decided it doesn't want anyone opening it anymore? What? Is there a cooldown period for each chapter or something? Barry asked. We are starting a new chapter a lot earlier than we usually do. Hal mused. Kakashi rubbed his chin. I have a theory. Everyone looked at him expectantly. I'm sure you've all seen how the book flies to a different person after every chapter, and I'm certain all of us have read at least one chapter by now. So we have to wait for it to choose a new reader? If you haven't noticed, this is all of us. Hal said. Not for long. Batman said. If Hatake's theory is right, then someone else or more people are going to be arriving soon. It makes more sense than the cool-down period thing. Barry shrugged and slouched in his seat. So, what now? Now, we wait. Batman said. The group spent the next few minutes in silence before a faint sound bearing a likeness to shifting sand crept into the space, becoming louder with each passing second. Everyone tensed as a large hole appeared above them and dropped 3 people. The 3 ninjas' eyes widened at the sight of the 3 newcomers. What the hell? Naruto trailed off, dumbstruck. Oh, does anyone know what sucked us in? I feel like I took a dive in oil. A masculine voice groaned, obviously nauseous from his impromptu journey. Another portal. It's always a portal. Another one, this time belonging to a female, said irritably. And get the hell off me, Kiba. Your coat stinks. It's not my fault that I couldn't change clothes before coming here, Sakura. The now-named Kiba untangled himself from the female, revealing pink hair. The last one, another male with dark-colored hair covering an eye, looked around before he saw Naruto. Naruto? You're here too. Wait, Naruto. Where is he? Sakura-haired girl shot to her feet. Wait, Sasuke. Sasuke's here. Kiba, who'd gotten over his nausea, glared at the Uchiha in question. Where the hell did you take us, you bastard? Will you two stop and look around you? Sasuke glared at the two before looking back at Naruto, who returned his stare stoically. Where are we, Naruto? Naruto? Where the hell have you been, man? It's like you just up and disappeared from Konoha in the middle of the night. Kiba accused the blonde. And who the hell are these people? He pointed at the superheroes. Lady Tsunade? Kakashi? Gaara? Sakura stared at her 2 former teachers in shock. How had they gotten here? Hello? Kakashi waved at her casually. It's me. Oliver couldn't help himself. I was wondering if after all these why. Now's not the time, you two. Clark cut the speedster short. When did you all get here? Sakura asked. Give or take a few days maybe. Kakashi shrugged. The passage of time hadn't taken its toll on him, but it felt like he'd been here for 3 days at least. That's not possible, your disappearances would have caused an uproar. Sakura frowned. Apparently, time doesn't flow here, so as far as the outside world is concerned, we're not missing. Gaara said. What? Sasuke asked. I think everyone outsider's still stuck in the same instant we were taken from or something. I don't know how to explain it. Asked Naruto. Tsunade pointed at the blonde. Sakura sucked in her teeth. Maybe later. Ask the others then. About the others, Kiba turned to the only strangers in the room. Who are you guys? Are they the ones who brought us all here? No, they're not, Kiba. Kakashi said. They're in the same situation as us. In fact, they got here after we did. It could be a ploy. Sasuke said. It's not, Sasuke. Kakashi replied coolly. Please don't try anything with them, they're perfectly capable of defending themselves. Sasuke found it a little hard to believe, but he'd learned not to underestimate anyone regardless of how outlandishly they dressed. Clark walked over to them, feeling a sense of déjà vu as he plastered a friendly smile on his face. Rest assured, we're in the same situation with you, just as Kakashi said. I think an introduction is in order, don't you agree? Sakura felt blood rush to her face as she and the Kryptonian made eye contact. She loved Sasuke, but why did the man have to be so damn handsome? Well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for now. I'm sure you've learned our names already. Yes, I have. Clark nodded. I'm Clark Kent and these are Barry, Kara, Oliver, Dinah, Diana, Jean, Helen, Batman. He pointed at each member of the League who nodded at them as their names were mentioned. Wait, your name's Batman? Kiba asked disbelievingly. What kind of name is that? Don't be insensitive, Kiba. Sakura reprimanded him, but she had to admit that it was an unfortunate name. It's not really his name, it's an alias. He'll share it with you if he comes to trust you enough. Clark smiled apologetically. Has he trusted anyone enough yet? Sasuke asked. As much as I like being here already, Kiba said, taking his eyes off the women. What are we here for? You're not going to believe it. Kakashi chuckled. What do you mean? Sasuke asked. We are reading the events of another universe. Barry said. Another universe. Sakura parroted the man. Is that supposed to be a joke? You've been sent to other dimensions, Sakura. Is the idea of other universes still implausible to you? Sasuke asked her. No, it's not, but you don't seriously believe that, Sasuke. Sakura stuttered. Their Tyran names should at least provide reason for you to have an open mind, Sakura. Kakashi said. They're not from our world either. Even if it's true, why the hell should we care what happens in another universe? Kiba snorted. We've still got our own shit we are dealing with. Because Naruto's there too. Clark pointed at Naruto. Kiba's eyes widened. How the hell is he there? He's here with us now. There's different versions of us, Kiba. Just as we're here, there are other versions of us existing in other dimensions at the same time. Naruto explained. So we're all there too? He asked. No, I'm the only one there. Well, the only one from my world. I'm in their universe. Naruto gestured towards the superheroes. Not theirs exactly, but one of their own alternate universes. So we weren't just taken from our world, we were snatched out of our own reality entirely. Sasuke frowned as he looked around. He'd tried opening a portal as soon as he arrived, but none of his ocular abilities worked. Maybe. Hal shrugged. None of us know where this place is. For all we know, it could just be a pocket dimension or a solid, yet invisible part of an unknown universe. It's for the best if you try not to think of it too much. Kakashi said. Take a seat, we are supposed to have started the next chapter anyway. The three complied and took their seats to prepare for the next chapter. Lady Tsunade, why's Naruto staying with those two? Sakura whispered to Tsunade, pointing at the boy sandwiched by the Kryptonian and the Amazon. They've hit it off well since we got here. Tsunade said. You couldn't get either of them to break that formation now. I see, Sakura muttered, not sure how to feel. Tsunade looked at her student questioningly. What's with that response, are you jealous or something? No, of course not. It's just, I don't think it's a good idea to get so close with strangers so fast. Right, Tsunade said, obviously not believing her. Why don't you go tell him that? You know I can't, Lady Tsunade. Sakura frowned at her. You two still haven't talked after that Hinata matter. Tsunade shook her head. Not for lack of trying. It feels like he's avoiding me. You did say some unnecessarily harsh things to him. Tsunade shrugged. Now's as good a time as any to patch it up. I have a feeling he's not going to stick around to listen to anything you have to say if he can help it. Sakura nodded, and as she was about to talk, the book flew out of Clark's grip to drop onto Sasuke's hands. What the hell? It's been doing that for a while now. Kakashi said. The book chooses its reader for each chapter. Don't worry, it probably won't come to you after this one probably. A book that chooses its reader. Sasuke muttered slowly. What kind of shit have we gotten into now? Kiba sighed. The Uchiha cautiously opened the book. What chapter are we continuing from? It should be the 11th chapter. Barry said. Sasuke looked down at the book. Odd, that's exactly where I am. Trippy, huh? Kara remarked. Trippy? Sakura asked. She couldn't remember Sasuke tripping on anything since they appeared. It's a slang, don't worry about it. Kara sighed. What exactly did they do in their world other than fight if they didn't even have slangs? The boy gave her a strange look, but didn't respond. The screen came down as he began to read. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 11, Rejection. The word immense did not do it justice. As he looked at the endless expanse of darkness ahead of him, he could not find a word in his vocabulary to describe its size. In truth, it was way larger than dozens of planetary systems put together, a darkness blacker than the darkest black. His eyes would have not been able to perceive its existence in the first place if it had not been for the accretion disks glowing at its edge. What is this? I agree, what the hell is that? Sakura asked, worried for Naruto. I don't know, It's a black hole. Hal cut Kakashi off grimly. A singularity in the fabric of space that exerts a gravitational force so great, nothing that gets sucked and comes out. Stars, planets, ships, nothing. Not even light. The ninja's eyes widened, Naruto's especially. The closest thing to what Hal had described was Nagato's Chibaku Tensei, and even getting trapped in that had hurt like a bitch. And that's what he found himself in. Tsunade half yelled. Apparently so. Barry asked. I can't believe he wound up in a black hole. The Guardians have researched them as best as they can, but they've never found anything to suggest it can distort time to such a degree. Hal said. This is some interstellar level shit right here. Oliver said. Have they tried dropping a probe or something? Nothing that goes and comes out. Hell! It traps everything. Radio waves, light, radiation, communication signals, chances are everything they send and gets crushed in an instant. We can't tell. Hal said slowly. They obviously don't, seeing as how Naruto doesn't look like a steamrolled can yet. Barry pointed at the screen. Don't joke about that, Barry. A frowning Kara muttered. No, I'm serious about yet, Kara. Barry said. The black hole isn't the singularity in itself, it's the effect of the singularity, and in a black hole, everything's drawn towards the singularity at the very center where they're crushed. If he doesn't get out in time, he'll be crushed. What a wonderful way to start a new chapter. The Kryptonian was getting a little fed up with the way things were going. 2 chapters ago, it was Naruto collapsing after carrying out a massacre. The last it was Diana finding out about her unpleasant origin, and now, it was Naruto in another near-death situation. It can't be helped if things aren't always exciting or happy. Diana said solemnly. This is the discovery of a lifetime. Harl's ring glowed green as he recorded the proceedings on the screen. This is the first time we're even seeing the inside of a black hole. The best we have is footage from the borders of the event horizon. Why is his ring glowing? Sakura asked Tsunade, who shrugged. It's what it does, ask him. She replied. We're about to watch myself get crushed to death after destroying a planet, but hey, science. Naruto sighed. But if it traps in light, shouldn't the whole inside be like a light show or something? Sakura asked. It looks darker than a demon's soul to me. It should, but there's a chance that the nearest bit of light's millions of miles away. Some black holes are larger than a whole solar system. Hal replied. A solar system. Sasuke couldn't help his curiosity. A group of planets orbiting around a Sunday. Came the quick reply. Chances are he won't see any unless he's near the center. Can we please keep going? Dinah cut Sasuke off before he could ask something else and ignored his annoyed look. There's no point in speculating about an outcome we can see, is there? I guess not. His voice was shaking. A brave and courageous man, someone who never backed down, someone who had dared to even fight against a god. That man, at that moment, was frozen. A primal fear beyond his reasoning gripped at his heart. He could not breathe. In terror, he could not even look away. Naruto grimaced at his other self's terrified visage. It was one thing to see something like the inside of a black hole, and it was another to be in one. Being trapped in a seemingly boundless void devoid of light and life while being pulled towards certain death was a horrifying thought. A thought came to his mind. This is the end. No, it won't, it can't be. Kara stared at the screen, wishing he hadn't lost hope yet. He's just saying that. If he's anything like Naruto here, he won't stop fighting till he can't anymore. Kiba reassured her, but his own voice sounded unsure to himself. Kiba's right. Sakura nodded. He's not going quietly to his own death. Alarms rang and many warnings appeared on the screen of his computer. The ship began to shake terribly because of the force pulling at it, dragging it away from its trajectory. He's getting close. Clark muttered, his voice tight with worry. You don't say. Hal absently responded. He was worried for the man, but he didn't stop recording the sight. Snapping out of his trance-like state, he grabbed the controls of the ship in panic and pulled on them, trying to steer the ship away manually. He pressed on several buttons and all the engines of the ship blasted at full power. But for all his efforts, the only result was that the ship started shaking even harder, and then, with a loud bang, one of the engines superheated and exploded. Oh God. Barry felt a little sick. It's not all that bad. Without air to feed the fire, it's not going to spread. Clark said, trying to be optimistic. But his already low chances of escaping have plummeted even further. Batman reminded him. Kirama. Kirama. Sakura asked. Who's Kirama? The Nine-Tails. Kakashi absently responded, not taking his eyes off the sight of what might very well be the end of his former student's life. The Nine-Tails has a name. Kiba asked incredulously. And if you know what's good for you, you won't go around using it all the time. Naruto warned them, having felt Kirama's anger at having his name revealed to more people. Sasuke hadn't been expecting it, but he wasn't surprised either. He knew from experience that the tail beasts weren't mindless creatures, but he didn't imagine they'd attach names to themselves. At his call, a yellow and red light came out of his body. He stood up from the pilot's seat and then squatted against the floor of the ship. The yellow and red chakra increased in density around him to such a degree that his silhouette became blurry, almost indistinguishable. His legs pushed against the floor with all the power he was capable of, and he launched himself up like an unstoppable rocket. He broke through the reinforced special alloy that the outer walls of his spaceship were made of, straight into the void. Everyone watched with bated breaths as the man cannoned out of the ship. The display of power would have been more impressive to see if the situation wasn't so desperate. Now, blast it! Crimson red chakra burst from the soles of his feet, it enveloping the several hundred feet long spaceship below. An enormous explosion boomed when the ship's main ion reactor blew up. That explosion did what the spaceship's engines could not achieve. It propelled him away violently, lessening the pulling force that had taken hold of his being. There was no sign of relief on his face. A tailed beast bomb started to take form in the palm of his hands, and it grew in size until it was as large as a football. But he did not throw it. Where could he have thrown it to? For millions of miles, there was nothing around him. Pressing with his palms against it, the tailed beast bomb's spherical form was compressed to that of a plum. Then, it blew up and another violent explosion blasted him away. It was almost as powerful as a small nuclear bomb. Jesus, Hal trailed off. It's not enough. Even if all the concussive force of a single nuclear bomb were concentrated in a linear path, it would never send any object traveling fast enough to escape a black hole. Not one at least. In the vacuum of space, those two explosions hurled him to more than 1,000,000 miles away from his initial location. Not enough. It's not enough. Desperation threatened to overwhelm him. He felt like no matter how far he flew, he would not be able to escape. He could not escape from the intangible claws of the devouring demon that had grabbed a hold of him. A shadow clone appeared behind him. But the clone did not have the momentum that the two huge explosions had granted to the original body. In a blink of an eye, the original body had disappeared from the clone site. Despite the original body's crazy speed and momentum, it had still not been fast enough to escape the radius of the explosion that followed. The shadow clone killed itself by creating and detonating another tailed beast bomb in his hands, just so the shockwave of the explosion could blast away the original body even further. Terrible explosions with powers no less than that of nuclear bombs appeared like tiny suns as they lit up, for a brief moment, the ever-present darkness of space. What the hell? Kiba trailed off, amazed by the light show. Oliver shook his head, astonished. I know it's a bad time, but it's amazing how he can basically spam nukes like that. I know, right? Barry agreed. The repeated shockwaves coming from them were enough to even pulverize some of his internal organs and make him cough up large amounts of blood. But after the explosion of nearly 10 tailed beast bombs, consuming much of his chakra pool, his body gained such an astonishing momentum in the vacuum of space that he had almost reached the speed of light. It was a speed that no one could reach without the aid of a supernatural force protecting their being. Everyone winced as the blonde took the explosions head-on. It did what it was supposed to, but something like that would have had to hurt like a bitch. With his body wrapped in a dense yellow and red chakra, he looked like a comet as he flew in desperation. But finally, he could feel it. The pulling force from behind was weakening. He was not far from his salvation, the event horizon. At least it was worth it. Sakura said. He's not out of the woods yet. Hal said grimly. If he doesn't keep at it, he can easily get pulled back in. Are you kidding? Kiba asked. After everything. After everything. Hal nodded. Horizontal ellipsis. He woke up with a start. Had half of his body not been petrified, he would have jumped up to his feet. In his condition, he could only grab onto the bed sheets with a still working hand. He noticed that the sheets were soaked with his sweat. Closing his remaining eye, he tried to calm himself down. His heart was beating as if to jump out of his chest. Void. Years had passed from the last time he had had that nightmare. But it was not just a mere dream. Out of the 3,381 missions that Naruto had taken over the past century as an intergalactic mercenary, he had completed 3,380. He had failed only one. It had happened when the events from his nightmare had taken place. What job would take a person to a black hole? Hal couldn't help but ask. Maybe he was unlucky and got sucked in. It happens, doesn't it? Barry suggested. Yeah, that could be it. Hal nodded. He'd heard tales of some other Lantern Corps members who wound up in black holes. Sometimes, even the rings didn't return. A supermassive black hole located very far from the borders of the 3,600 sectors of the universe. It was the closest he had ever come to dying. It was the most terrified he had ever been of something. It was a fear that did not make sense because, normally, Naruto was not afraid of death. It was beyond his understanding, more than his mind could comprehend. 1 hour spent at the very edge of its gravitational pull's range had meant over 50 years in the world outside the event horizon. Though he had completed the actual bounty before the supermassive black hole's gravitational pull derailed his ship off its course, by the time he returned to show proof of his bounty's completion and collect his reward, the person who had issued the bounty had died of old age. That was why it was counted as a failure. Damn, that sucks. Kiba said. No shit, Kiba. All that trouble and nothing to show for it. Sakura agreed. It's natural to fear what you don't understand. Naruto nodded. The only rational fear is the fear of the unknown. Batman agreed. Not death. Gaara asked. If someone knocks on a closed door, there's every chance that they've got a cake, a gun, or they're an extra-dimensional being looking to punish you for meandering the linear flow of your timeline. Barry shrugged. Point is, you'll never really know what's behind the door until you open it. Everyone stared at him weirdly. You really have to quit time traveling, Barry. Oliver shook his head. You can travel through time. Sasuke asked the speedster curiously. Yep. It's not something I'd advise though, it's usually more trouble than it's worth. Barry replied. What do you mean? Sakura asked. Barry rubbed his chin. Well, one time I traveled to the Dark Ages and accidentally moved a chair to another table, and when next I went to that branched out timeline, Gaara was dating some monkey dude, Superman had a gay son and Diana had a twin sister. My son was what? Clark shrieked. I'm sorry, what did I have? Diana asked. Wait, she was dating a monkey. Kiba parroted the last part as he looked at the girl in question. Wait. Oliver waved his hands. Do you mean a monkey or a? No, some Asian guy with monkey powers who dress like Sun Wukong or something, I don't know, I didn't stick around long enough to really be sure. So she's a furry. Dinah shook her head disappointedly. What if he's just a shapeshifter like Beast Boy? Hal said. Something tells me that's not the case. Gaara muttered. Better start stocking up on bananas now, Gaara. You might find love the next time you visit a zoo. Diana ribbed the blonde who glared at her mildly. I'm more concerned about Clark's son though. Hal said. What if he was going to throw a house party or something? Would any guys show up? Doubt it. Oliver shook his head. Imagine asking where the hoes are only to find out you are the hose. I think it's ironic though. Naruto chuckled. The last of your kind and your only offspring is homosexual. It's ODF how the people who ought to revive their kind are usually the ones who seem to have the least interest in doing so. Kakashi glanced at Sasuke, who pretended not to see him. I'm talking to you, Sasuke. I'm working on it. The Uchiha said. Sakura blushed red. Don't tell them that. She reprimanded the boy who rolled his eyes. 1 hour under the influence of that supermassive black hole had made him unaging, immortal. He had searched for information about black holes after surviving that incident. In this wide universe, there had been other people too who had stepped beyond the event horizon of a black hole and managed to escape and live to tell the tale. But he had never heard of someone becoming immortal as a result of it. He had also never heard of a black hole of that size before. The largest one recorded reached only the approximate size of a planetary system. The closer you get to the singularity, the more time distorts. Hal explained. In fact, there's a point where a minute is equal to 700 years outside, and at a certain point, the flow of time grinds to a halt entirely. You think that's where I got to? Naruto asked. I doubt it. Hal shook his head. Research suggests that at that point, you'd have to be close enough to the very center of the black hole that you'd be able to see the singularity. But if he did get out, shouldn't time pass normally for him again? Kiba asked. I mean, he's no longer in the black hole. Things should have become normal. The fact that he wasn't crushed when he ejected means his body adapted to the conditions to an extent, and by proxy, the time. It's a wild shot, but that's about all I have right now. Hal theorized. Like he said, we don't know near enough to learn why most things in black holes happen. So I guess we'll never know then. Kakashi sighed. To this day, he was convinced that it had not been a natural phenomenon. Someone, must have created the thing. To this day, Naruto had been left with a deep fear of the void. In front of that world-ending black hole, he felt insignificant. Old gods? New gods, what a joke. Who dares to call themselves a god in front of the void? You're awake. A girl's voice made him break out from his thoughts. Barry grinned. You were trying to cross the border, right? Fell right for that Imperial trap. Imperial trap? Sakura asked. Exactly, what the hell are you talking about? Tsunade asked too. I couldn't live in your world. I can't imagine a life without games. Gaara sighed pityingly. Me neither. Barry agreed. We get it, you have phones and games and all that. Naruto huffed. Both worlds have their strong points. Diana comforted him. Look at it this way, you don't have Rule 34. Rule 34. Kibble raised an eyebrow. Is that some kind of code name for a criminal or something? Don't worry about it. Gaara waved him off. When he felt the cool sensation of a wet cloth wiping the unpetrified part of his forehead, he opened his eyes. A curtain of long red hair appeared in his sight. It was Coriander. A worried look could be seen in her green eyes. Kiba whistled loudly as Coriander appeared on the screen. Man, what is it with every girl from this world being hot? My thoughts exactly. Naruto nodded. Gaara grinned at him. Sakura felt envy sting her gut as she saw Sasuke staring as well. The Uchiha looked largely unfazed by what he saw, but the slight widening in his eye and his partly open mouth let her know he was taken by the redhead. She glanced at Kiba. Should you be staring like that? Aren't you seeing someone now? Nothing wrong with admiring a good sight. The boy replied without looking at her. Amen to that. Oliver muttered. Are you okay? She asked, but she realized how stupid her question sounded given that he could not talk and that half of his body had been turned to stone, so she added, will you recover from this? It's weird seeing her so worried about you now since she fought you 2 chapters back. Barry remarked. I didn't turn her into her former captors and I nearly died getting rid of them as well. Besides, the whole fight was because of a misunderstanding. Naruto pointed out. I guess the love story between her and your boy's really not happening here. Oliver told Batman, who stared at him blankly. All Naruto could do was to make a thumbs-up gesture with his hand. He could not write as he had done with Kyurubi because he did not know the Tamarin language. Now this is weird, the girl said as she brought her face closer to him and sniffed. The bed and your clothes are wet from how much you sweated, but it doesn't smell. It's because Savior Naruto does not stain nor pollute. Instead, he preserves and cleanses. Oliver put his palms together. Naruto groaned loudly, much to Gaara and Diana's amusement. Savior Naruto. Sakura asked Tsunade, who shrugged. Running joke, don't think about it too much. If he had not been petrified, Naruto would have chuckled at her antics. This girl is not right in the head, he thought, inwardly amused. Coriander took his unharmed hand in hers and squeezed it, but without putting too much force into it to not hurt him. She bowed her head and said, I was scared and confused at first because I suspected the worst when you said my parents sent you to rescue me. I mean, they'd been dead for years. I thought you were trying to trick me. But I want to thank you. You killed my captors. Your fox friend told me that you even killed the Saiyans who have imprisoned and experimented on you for years. I have etched this gratitude deep in my heart. No matter when or where, I will always be ready to repay you for it. Thank you. Gaara squinted at the screen. That sounded a little more than an oath of indebtedness. She seems really nice now that she's calmed down. Diana commented. I'd say she looks to have turned out better than most in her situation would. Looks like you've gotten yourself a stalker though. Oliver snickered. Last time someone said that to me, they ended up following me around and looking for an opportunity to save my ass so they can run off with a clean conscience. Well, where would she go? Naruto shrugged. Her world is gone, her family's dead. She's my other self's responsibility now since he chose to save her. Coriander was a little startled when Naruto pulled his hand free from her grasp. She was even more surprised when his hand landed on her head. His hand was heavy and his palm and fingers were rough with calluses from a lifetime of wielding weapons, but it brought her a sense of gentleness like she had not felt in almost a decade, from the time when she was a young child, before her parents sold her out as a slave. Damn. Kiba said quietly. There were few betrayals as bad as that. He couldn't imagine his mother giving him away for whatever reason. She found herself leaning into his touch, taking comfort in that gentle head pat. However, that moment did not last long. After a few seconds, his hand became still and his one eye closed. Still tired, he fell asleep. And the moment's over. Oliver said. I wouldn't say so, she's still watching over him. Dinah pointed at the girl who still hadn't left. Yet, but the wholesome mood's kind of gone now and it's just her watching him in his sleep. Sasuke frowned. He'd only just noticed the state the blonde's other self was in. What happened to him, Naruto? Nature energy poisoning. Naruto said simply. He took in too much nature chakra from a polluted source. Does that happen to you too? Naruto eyed the boy cautiously. Our pollution's not that bad. Why? Nothing. A planet reminiscent of a blue marble could vaguely be seen in the distance. Having just passed by planet Mars a few minutes ago, the Earth was now only 20 million miles away or so. It's a little weird how he's coming back like he didn't almost turn you guys to pancakes last time. Gaara commented. Probably because he thinks we'll grant him asylum. Clark shrugged. He's not wrong, is he? She smiled at her cousin who sighed resignedly. The woes of being a good person, huh? Kakashi chuckled. Ever since she woke up, Coriander had tried to talk more with the owners of the ship. But the man was in a terrible shape, bedridden and unconscious, while the talking fox appeared to be in an awfully bad mood, even worse than when they had just met and he hit her. Any attempt of her starting a conversation was shot down with a growl and a fierce glare from him. After the third time, the girl wisely decided to stay silent and let the angry fox have his peace and quiet. Really, Kirama? Naruto thought. A friend of yours isn't instantly a friend of mine, came the tail beast's reply. At this point, I'm not surprised. Hal said. Would it kill him to be a little nicer though? Tell the man to. Naruto pursed his lips as he listened to the string of expletives that made up Kirama's message. When the tailed beast was done, he gave Hal a tight smile. He said yes. He didn't. Gaara corrected him. It summarizes to yes. Nonetheless, the ship's destination was of great importance for her too, since she was aboard as well. When she realized that they were on their way back to Earth, she could not hold in her doubts and worries and said, "Why are we going back to Earth? Last time we went there they fought against me and they fought against your master too. They are not friendly." In loving memory of Coriander, a beloved daughter, princess and waifu. Oliver and Barry bowed their heads mournfully. She's still 17. Batman said. Not here, she's not. Oliver argued. She got taken at 9, right? Let's say nearly a decade means 9, almost 10 years. You sound like a pedophile trying to round up a minor's age to 18. Gaara shook her head. For shame, Oliver. You take that back. The archer glared at her. Sakura stared at them confusedly. What do you mean? She's not dead. She will be. She called Naruto his master. Sasuke said. Kirama's not that temperamental and she doesn't know. Naruto defended the tailed beast. He's not going to bite her head off over an honest mistake. Are you sure about that? He looks pissed. Kiba pointed at the screen. Trust me, he won't do anything. Kyuubi growled at her again. Naruto is not my master. He is my little brother. Hey, I'm not that either. Naruto ignored Kirama's amusement. To be fair, he was old before even your parents were conceived. Kakashi reminded him. You should be happy he called your little brother rather than a grandson. With how grumpy he is, he'd probably coat an onion in chocolate and trick you into thinking it's a popsicle. Gaara said. That's actually something I see him doing. Naruto admitted. Kirama didn't have much of a sense of humor, but it bordered on malicious sometimes. Coriander recoiled at the anger in the fox's voice and stood silent for a while. I'm sorry for my wrong assumption. Don't be angry at me anymore, please. The fox let out a low growl from his chest. I'm not angry at you, but I'll get pissed for sure you don't shut your trap for a moment. We're going to Earth for asylum. They are not bad people deep inside, they're just morons. But because they're morons they will protect us from others. Now that you know why we are going there, please keep quiet. See? He likes you. Naruto smiled at the superheroes. He called us morons. Clark deadpanned. He called us useful morons. Poor Coriander. She got stuck with the one who doesn't like people. Diana said. I think he's just worried about Naruto and some girl trying to make small talk isn't making him feel any better. Tsunade told the Amazon. The Tamarinern princess made herself small and did not say anything else. In her mind, however, she wondered why the fox was so mean and angry at her all the time. Does he hate me? Or maybe he hates everyone, or it could be that he's stressed because of his brother's condition? I'll laugh him. Oliver nodded. All what? Sakura muttered. What sort of gibberish did the people in the other world speak? All of them. Dinah clarified. And for the love of God, Oliver, talk normally. Normalcy is for the weak. Kyuubi was, indeed, stressed out and very worried because of Naruto's condition, but that was not the only reason for his irascibility. The main reason for his bad mood was the massive amount of natural energy he had absorbed. While he had not gotten ill from all the natural energy that Naruto had pumped into him, he was a chakra beast. He did not have a normal, biological body. It had certainly amplified his rage and violent tendencies. At least now we know why he's acting that way. Naruto said. After all, it had been a crazy amount of natural energy, so much that he had become even stronger and more immense than the 10-tailed beast, his progenitor, a god. In comparison to Jubi, who was a mindless beast, Kyuubi was handling his power much better, and he had absorbed so much chakra that he had become a planet-busting behemoth. He's now more powerful than the 10 tails. Sasuke's eyes widened. That's a hell of a claim there. Kiba said skeptically. I mean, the 10 tails? The same 10 tails that beat all of them at once. Yep, that 10 tails. Naruto nodded. He's proven it too. You should have seen him 2 chapters ago. It was awesome. Gaara cheered. He wiped out an entire race with one attack. The Inuzuka gave her an unnerved smile. Oh, cool. In the present, although it took him all of his willpower to restrain his berserk emotions, he did keep himself somewhat calm and in control. But Coriander pestering him with questions was not helping his situation at all. That's why he snapped at her the way he did. It did not take long for the Almeration ship to reach the Earth and its moon. When they were about to enter the outer layer of Earth's exosphere, about 6,000 miles away from the planet, Kyuubi spoke to the AI of the computer in the control room. Activate the stealth mode. Roger. Stealth mode will be activated in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stealth mode activated. Based on the remaining fuel, the stealth mode can be sustained for 20 minutes, the AI's clear voice sounded. A light flickered on the exterior of the ship and, after a few seconds, it became almost invisible. A vague distortion of the space was the only trace left of it. It was the perfect camouflage technology. That's how they had bypassed the watchtower's radars and sensors 2 days ago as well when they came to capture Vandal. Savage. It feels like so long ago now. Oliver sighed. It was just 3 chapters ago. Dinah deadpanned. So that's how he was able to sneak past the watchtower. Hal said. Just what are they doing on Almerac? The Almeration ship was about to enter the thermosphere of the planet when a very bright yellow light appeared seemingly out of nowhere and targeted it. Startled, Kyuubi used 2 of his tails to abruptly steer the ship away, performing a role that would have made even a professional pilot proud, managing to just barely dodge that yellow light. That's some Top Gun level flying. Barry remarked. Doing that with tails is crazy. Shame it's for naught. The lantern won't stop just because its target avoided it. The lantern? Kiba asked. They're being chased by a lantern. Not in the literal sense. Hal raised his ring. It's just a name we give the corpses that use power rings like these ones. They draw power from different parts of the emotional spectrum and come in different colors ranging from white to black. You lost me at power rings. Kiba looked away. Why do I even bother? Hal sighed. What does your color signify? Sasuke asked. Willpower. He replied. The rings usually chase after the people who possess a large amount of the emotion they reflect. The Green Lanterns go after people who have managed to conquer their greatest fears and whatnot. Sasuke thought about that and wondered if one would seek him out if they existed in his world. Had he even managed to conquer all his fears? What other colors are there? Kiba asked. There's orange for greed, violet for love, blue for hope, red for anger and a few others. What's the yellow for then? Sakura gestured at the ring on the screen. It signifies fear. The ring goes after the people who inspire great fear in the hearts of others. Hal said. And it's going after them? He asked skeptically. Kirama. It's going after Kirama. Clark specified. His efforts proved to be in vain, however, when the yellow light turned around and targeted their ship again, like a homing missile. This time, it was impossible to dodge it. But Kyuubi did not give up. One of his tails elongated and pressed a red button. Energy shield deployed. Shield capacity, 100%. Stealth mode deactivated, the AI announced. The fox growled in annoyance. The stealth mode being deactivated meant that the Justice League's watchtower would no doubt catch wind of their arrival, but it was still preferable to having their ship blown up by that weird yellow light missile. But the following scene greatly startled Kyuubi. The yellow light passed through the energy shield unhindered and then even through the thick glass of the control room's window without as much as making a hole or causing any type of damage. It was as though it was immaterial. Wait, what? Kara blinked. You didn't know? Most rings and by proxy, their users, can turn intangible. Hal grinned. Just how many things exactly do the rings let you do? Clark asked. You can fly, turn intangible, make energy constructs, turn invisible and seal stuff. What else? A lot. The yellow missile headed straight to Kyuubi, who was in the pilot's seat. But now that it was right in front of his eyes and he could see it clearly, Kyuubi said in disbelief. What the hell? It was a power ring. A yellow power ring belonging to the Yellow Lantern Corps, led by Sinestro. They were not as well known as the Green Lantern, but they were still infamous enough for Kyuubi to have heard of them in the past. People who try to restore order through acts of terrorism tend to gain infamy quick. Batman commented. True that. Hal nodded. But I wouldn't say they're terrorists, they've just adopted Sinestro's tendency to take things too far. The yellow power ring went straight to his right paw and enlarged enough that it fitted around it like a bracelet. An intense yellow light started to glow as it enveloped his body, and Kyuubi heard a voice coming from the ring. You have been chosen to wield a yellow power ring. Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox. You will be subjected to psychological and physical reconditioning. You will be transported to... There it is. Hal snapped his fingers. You weren't fibbing, they really do try to control their wielders. Barry said. All the rings do that. Sakura asked Hal as she looked at him suspiciously. Not all of them, but the Yellow Lanterns do. It's the same way the Red Lantern rings force their wielders to go mad with rage and replace their hearts, so if they took off the ring, they'd die. You got to admit though, it'd be ironic to have your will subjugated by a ring representing willpower. Kakashi smiled at the thought. It would, wouldn't it? Naruto snorted. He wouldn't take that ring even if it gave him the power of the gods. All the rage and anger that Kyuubi had been bottling up until then exploded. Don't screw with me. He roared, and a wave of crimson-red chakra burst out of his body. Psychological reconditioning? You think you can enslave me? You think I'd let anyone ever control me again? Again? Diana looked at Naruto. You'll have to ask him yourself. He shrugged. His size started to increase again and his entire body became covered in fire. The board of the ship and the supercomputer melted in an instant and deafening alarms started ringing. The ship began to shake terribly because the computer that had been controlling everything was destroyed. All that because he got pissed. Kiba gulped. Maybe the Ten Tails stuff isn't that far off. You don't say, Kiba. Sakura said quietly as she stared at the screen in mild fear. She'd personally borne the brunt of the Nine Tails chakra, but it hadn't been as potent as it looked to be in that world. The gravity generator stopped working and the atmospheric pressure in the ship started to decrease rapidly. The ship began to lose altitude at a breakneck speed, and it soon reached the lower layer of the thermosphere. Conflicting emotional resonance detected. Rage overpowering fear. Targeted sentient deemed unfit to. Oh no. Hal sighed. Well, you'll probably have a red ring to worry about too. At this rate, he'll probably have enough rings on his hands to look like a bride of many. Barry joked. Maybe this is a sign for him to settle down with some nice female-tailed beast. Naruto grinned. What if there's a female you somewhere out there, Kirima? Not only is that thought disgusting, it's also impossible. Kirima's growl resounded in his head. Would you be romantically involved with another of yourself if she was a female? Well, forget I asked. The voice coming from the ring abruptly stopped because, at that moment, the gorilla-sized nine-tailed fox smashed his fire-covered fists together. A crisp sound was heard and the yellow power ring was crushed into pieces. No way, Hal whispered. He destroyed it. One of the most powerful weapons in the universe, and he destroyed it. Is that impressive or expensive? Naruto asked. Are you kidding? The rings can tank almost anything. Hal almost yelled. Yet, even I haven't been able to pull that off. Clark said. Just how strong is he? Naruto could almost feel Kirima's pride swell. Don't give him a bigger head. But Kyuubi did not let his rage cloud his mind any longer. Quickly getting a hold of himself, he turned and tried to grab the controls of the ship, except that there were no controls left to grab anymore. The entire board had been melted by his flames a few moments before. Just then, the ship began to shake even harder and the temperature rose at an alarming rate. They had entered the mesosphere. Their ship had caught on fire. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Oliver sighed. Fucking hell. One disaster after another. Kyuubi cursed. He abandoned any hope of salvaging the ship. With no working computer and no controls to steer the ship while it was burning up from the friction with the atmosphere of the planet, not only was it impossible to save the ship, they would also be in danger of dying if they remained aboard when it collided against the Earth. Not him specifically, but the unconscious and half-turned to stone Naruto and the Tamaranian girl would definitely perish. Coriander has a chance, she's a Tamaranian. But Naruto? He'd shatter on impact. Hal said worriedly. Wow, that's a reassuring mental image. Naruto smiled blandly. He rushed out of the control room and ran straight to the living quarters. When he entered the bedroom, he saw Coriander protectively holding Naruto's kneeling statue-like body in her arms, to stop it from being smashed against the walls and the furniture as the ship was going down. Tsunade smiled at the girl appreciatively. To think she'd risk herself to keep him alive. She's a good person. She really is. Gaara agreed. She knew she probably wouldn't be that kind with Naruto had she been in Coriander's shoes. Your boy really lucked out if she's his ride or die, Bats. Oliver whispered to Batman, who didn't respond save for his lips twitching upwards. Decisively, the now large fox wrapped two of his tails around the two of them and brought them closer to his body. A loud crash was heard when Kyurubi smashed his fist against the outer wall of the ship. Even despite his relatively small size at that moment, he was only as large as a silverback ape. His punch was so powerful that not only that it broke the wall, but the entire ship was smashed into several pieces. The three of them were hurled into the air, but with his 2 arms and 9 tails wrapped protectively around the unconscious and petrified Naruto and the Tamarinine princess, Kyurubi curled himself in a large ball of red fur, protecting them from all angles. Now, the ball of red fur started falling towards the ground like a meteorite. Wait. I can fly. Coriander shouted at the top of her lungs, trying to make herself heard over the intense winds and air pressure as they fell. And she didn't think to say that sooner. Sakura asked. Tamarinine powers mostly rely on emotion. If she was still as afraid as before, she'd plummet like a stone. Hal explained. That she can fly now means she's more determined to save them than she's afraid. Sounds like a double-edged sword. Naruto said. The savior becomes the saved. Savior Naruto had found his missing piece. Oliver clasped his hands together. Diana sighed. Kyurubi's almost rabbit-like ears were not that long just for show. Though faintly, despite the roaring winds, he still heard what she said. He unfurled himself from his curled-up position, but he still kept 2 of his tails wrapped tightly around the 2 of them as they fell. A bright green light glowed in Coriander's eyes and around her hands, and her face became strained as she tried to stop their descent. What the hell, woman, you said you can fly. Kyurubi screamed when he saw that their falling speed was not decreasing at all. Coriander grabbed one of Kyurubi's large ears and yelled as loudly in it as she could. Make yourself smaller. You are too heavy. In spite of the dire situation, Naruto couldn't help but laugh, as did the others. Kurama wasn't as amused. The brat. This brat. His ear was ringing now. He felt like wanting to smack her for what she had done. I'll definitely smack her when we get down. But in spite of his thoughts, he did return himself to his tiny form as a fox cub. Regardless, his arms and legs and his 9 tails still latched around Naruto's waist securely. He was preparing himself for the worst-case scenario. If the girl could still not stop them from falling, he would enlarge himself again and wrap Naruto in his tails protectively like before. For him, smashing against the ground from that altitude would be an annoyance at most. It was not enough to seriously hurt him. But he was worried about what the shock of their impact against the ground might do to Naruto while he was in his current state. For Naruto's sake, he preferred landing safely instead of making a crater in the ground with his body. Sure enough, after Kyurubi became a tiny fox cub, Coriander managed to stabilize themselves in the air easily. However, as they were currently in the mesosphere, it was extremely cold, way below the freezing temperature of the water. Holding the petrified form of the kneeling Naruto in her arms and the fox that was latching onto his waist with his tails like an octopus, Coriander dived headfirst towards the ground at a very high speed. But, as it was a controlled flight, Kyurubi did not worry. They were only around 20 miles above the ground, somewhere above the Indonesian archipelago, when a very large constructive green light in the form of a human hand stopped them in their flight. Green Lantern coming in clutch like always. Oliver cheered for him, as did the others. Hal grinned. All in a day's work. We're talking about John. Hal! Clark said. Hal's expression soured. Fuck you, Clark. From behind them, a group of 5 people appeared, surrounding them from all sides. They were none other than Green Lantern, Superman, Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman, the 5 that could fly out of the 7 founding members of the Justice League. The what? Sakura bit down a laugh. Not this again. Clark groaned. I can't help but feel like that's a jab at Batman though. Oliver glanced at Batman, who rolled his eyes under his cowl. Flying is overrated, he said. No, it's not. The first time you got a ring, your feet didn't touch the ground again. Hal laughed at him. Word to Guru Hejima. Gaara said out of the blue. Everyone stared at her oddly. You know, from Avatar. Let's just keep going. Clark sighed. Sasuke closed the book. The chapter's over. Oh. Finally. It feels like we've been here for a month. Gaara got up and stretched. Naruto took the opportunity to ogle her as he asked. Wasn't it a few hours since the last one ended? Yet, but we've been stuck here for a month. We should get updated faster. Clark squinted. What? She stared at him. What? Never mind. It was the D&D. It had to be. This is all still weird as hell to me. Kiba said disbelievingly before looking at Sakura, who sat with her arms folded. You can't seriously believe all this, do you? The evidence speaks for itself, Kiba. She sighed. I'm not all that surprised. Kaguya has shown us that there's other worlds. I wouldn't say she so much as showed us as she tried to kill us in them, but okay. Kakashi shrugged. Well, whatever had brought them here had shown a brief recap of previous events, unlike with Gaara, but there were still blanks left unfilled, and he was saddled with the duty of bringing them up to speed with a detailed explanation. The story isn't a far-fetched one either. Sasuke said. Kaguya sent us to multiple dimensions during our battle with her. She just never thought to separate us all completely. Had she done so, Naruto here could have been the same as his other self. Or I'd be dead, Naruto added. When they all looked at him, he continued. Let's be real, we could barely touch her as a team. If she had come after us one by one, we'd have been easy pickings. Either way, the war would have been lost. Kakashi said. Let's not dwell on the bad. Yet. Kiba nodded. I gotta admit though, your other self is a mercenary? That's badass. Naruto blinked. Aren't we all mercenaries already? Seeing as how we usually get assigned the jobs rather than take them ourselves, and the Hokage ends up taking most of the profit, I wouldn't say we're exactly mercenaries. Oliver couldn't resist chiming in. So you're like hookers. The ninjas gave him blank stares. Barry sighed. He means prostitutes. Oh. Sakura murmured before the speedster's words fully registered and her face lit up with indignation. You perverted bastard. Naruto groaned. Come on, man. Really? Hey, all I'm saying is you need to think about it. You follow whoever pays you, sometimes the job gets chosen for you and your boss takes most of the money. Oliver continued. You can't exactly leave him, your career's pretty much over if he runs out of use for you and he can do more or less anything he wants with you. That's a pimp. Clark whispered to Batman, who smirked amusedly. What the hell? Did you tell him that? Kiba glared at Kakashi, who pointed at Tsunade. I'm not wrong, am I? The blonde asked with a shrug. That's a bad way of putting it, Lady Tsunade. Sakura complained. But not an incorrect one. Kakashi said. Not incorrect. Kiba sputtered. What do you think we are? Oliver slinks away as the ninjas began to argue among themselves to stand beside the Kryptonians, who looked to be pressing Barry for information. What exactly did that monkey guy sound like? Did he sound human? Gaara asked rapidly. Did he look human? Did you get his name? What color is he? What? Don't you think you're getting a little worked up, Gaara? Clark cut her off. Your son's gay and I'm dating a monkey, Clark. I'll get as worked up as I want to be. And that doesn't affect me. Clark said, but his voice was strained a bit. He's still my son. Till he starts calling another man daddy. Dinah snickered. He's still my son. Clark sounded like he was reassuring himself. And who your other self goes out with shouldn't affect you either. It doesn't happen in this timeline, or universe. Diana slung an arm over Gaara's shoulder with a teasing smile. But in the event where it does, we won't judge you for seeking love from another race. Isn't someone uppity now? Gaara remarked a bit irritably. I thought you'd be all gloom and doom since. Diana shook her head. There's no use dwelling on a past I had no involvement in. I was just shocked that my uncle would stoop that low. He's your dad, Clark said. I'm not calling him that. Gaara shrugged. You did say he did his own 2 older sisters and a bunch of other mortals. I don't think he draws the line anywhere. I don't think so either. Diana sighed. Anyway, what's keeping us from starting the next chapter? Oliver pointed at the group of ninjas who hadn't ceased their heated exchange. You know, you'd think they would have a less violent reaction to being called whores. It's their leaders agreeing with the notion that set them off, Hal said. Yet, whatever. I'm bored. Gaara blew a stray strand of hair away from her face. Still can't believe I'm dating a monkey. It could be worse, Clark tried to console her. Barry nodded. Yet. In another universe, you're dating a horse. Oh wow. Gaara wailed, drowned out Diana's laughter. I think the universe is trying to tell you something. Oliver snickered. I don't want to hear it. Kara's hands shot up to her ears. Is there not a universe where I'm dating someone normal? Well, Barry said there's one where you and Jimmy are together, Clark said. Olsen. Kara's face scrunched up. Wait, why does Barry know so many people other versions of me date? Have you been sending him to look? Clark flushed. I get curious, alright? He sees tons of things. And some of them just happen to be the state of my love life. She folded her arms. Yes. She stared at him hard before her shoulders slumped. You've been hanging out with Batman too long. I can't even tell if you're lying or not. He is, Batman said. Superman fixed the vigilante with a blank stare. Really, Batman? Batman 6'9". Oliver shook his head. Batman frowned under his cowl. What the hell did that mean? The book flapped loudly, attracting everyone's attention before it shot towards a surprised Kiba and struck him in the chest. Ow. Fucking. Don't be a baby, Kiba. It was just a light tap, Kakashi said casually. Kiba glared at the man. Hey fuck you. He caught himself and dragged the word out as Kakashi's mocking smile grew to a threatening grin. Oozing soap to bath. I knew the stink didn't come from your jacket. Sakura accused him. It is. Will you two stop arguing? It's bad enough that you both kept letting Kakashi goad you into a pointless argument. Sasuke jumped in between them. Fuck off, Uchiha. Don't talk to him like that. Sakura hissed. And he's right, we're acting like children. No shit. Tsunade spoke up. Even Naruto knew when to shut up and leave. More like he knew when to go get mushy with his girlfriends. Kiba grumbled as he looked at the blonde who'd sandwiched himself in between the two superheroines. Believe me, there's nothing mushy there. Kakashi sat down. Now read. And try not to open your mouth too wide. We wouldn't want your halitosis ruining the experience. Tsunade smirked. Who knows, depending on what's in the book, it might even add to it. Kiba swore under his breath as chuckles reached his ears and opened the book. The screen came down and turned on as he began to read. Chapter 12, Asylum. 2 days after the Jump City incident, the members of the Justice League were together in the Watchtower at the request of Superman. The mood in the conference room was stifling and unnatural. Batman seemed more taciturn than usual, Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter looked like they had a lot on their mind, and Wonder Woman appeared to be distracted, not fully focused on her peers. Flash was his usual easygoing self, but strangely enough for the rest of the jail members, Hawkgirl seemed to be in a great mood. Rest in peace to the Scions and the Gordanians in advance. Oliver said insincerely. Hal snorted. If Hawkgirl was here, her words be more along the lines of rest in peace. You won't be missed, Kara finished. Damn, what did they do to make her that mad? Kiba asked. Her race and theirs have been at war for over a century. Not to mention the Gordanians are slave traders and pirates who used to enslave and destroy worlds, and the Scions used to bankroll their activities in exchange for people to experiment on. Hal answered. Good riddance, Sasuke muttered. His time as Orochimaru's apprentice exposed him to the multiple atrocities he carried out on people, and he could never fully desensitize himself to it, unlike Orochimaru's right hand, Kabuto, who was just as bad, if not worse than his master. Yet, good riddance. Superman said, albeit reluctantly. Superman sat up from his seat and opened his mouth to say something, but Batman unexpectedly spoke first. Before you tell us the reason you called us, I'd like to say a few things. Looking back at what happened, I believe we could have avoided a fight with that alien mercenary. And it was all my fault. I want to apologize. No way. Barry gaped at the screen, as did the rest of the superheroes. Ain't no way. I'm not above apologizing, Barry. Batman deadpanned. When have you ever apologized for anything you've done, man? Oliver asked. Hell, you didn't even apologize for making Brother Eye. Let's not open that can of worms, okay? Dinah rubbed his shoulder. Brother Eye. Naruto looked at a scowling Diana. Maybe later, she said. Momentarily, the other 6 heroes were stunned. They had never seen Batman apologizing or admitting he was wrong about anything before, and they've been together for about a year by then. He does apologize, he just has to be irrefutably wrong before he does so, Clark said. To you, maybe. Hal rolled his eyes. I, for one, have never heard an apology from him. Me neither. Diana nodded, with the rest voicing their own agreement. Talk about a hard ass, Sakura commented. Though he was no less startled than the others, Superman was the first to react. You did nothing wrong, Batman. It was the right. No, it wasn't. Hal said. Clark frowned. So you expect us to just stand and watch a murderer and a potential kidnapper make off with his victim? What good person would do that? It was good, yet. But a good thing isn't always the right thing. Hal shook his head. You've got to learn that some things just aren't your business, whether right or wrong. We're defenders of Earth, not space police. It became our business the moment he decided to be active on Earth. Batman said adamantly. He broke our laws, even if unknowingly, and ignorance isn't an excuse. Hal scoffed. That would hit a lot harder if I knew you wouldn't do the same thing even if you hadn't been on Earth, Bats. Please let me finish. Batman raised a hand and said. The truth is that we didn't need to start a fight against him right away. We could have tried to solve our issues with him diplomatically first. After all, he was not the violent type that couldn't be reasoned with. Quite the opposite, he tried to reason with us and avoid clashing against us. But I let my ego get the better of me that day and I endangered you all. I have no excuse for that. I would like to temporarily retire from the Justice League and... You know, at this point, it feels like you use every excuse to take a leave from the League, Oliver remarked. This is like the 5th time you're resigning. Oliver's tactlessness aside, this isn't enough reason to leave, Batman. Clark said after giving the Archer the stink eye. I made us fight him because I didn't want to believe I could be wrong, Clark, Batman said. I can't make you follow wherever my personal beliefs led. A bit late to say that considering that's what you do most of the time, Dinah started. But you didn't force them, Bats. Yet, we chose to listen to you. Barry nodded. And we would not so readily follow your lead if we did not trust in your judgment, Jean added. And it is a trust earned by your competence. The times you have left us astray can be counted on a hand. And leaving isn't a way of rectifying your mistake, Diana joined. Had Naruto turned out to be the homicidal criminal you believed him to be, we would have taken him down together. Whatever mistakes you make, whatever the consequences may be, we'll deal with them together. We might complain, we might rage, but we will face them. As a team. Batman stayed silent, but the ones who knew him knew their words had gotten to him. You know, I was thinking they'd come in for a group hug or something. Kiba spoke up out of the blue. Don't ruin it. Sakura slapped his arm. Too late, Oliver sighed. You guys give each other motivational speeches often. Naruto grinned at Diana. No, came the smooth reply. Kara stared at her incredulously. Are you kidding? Hearing all that, I wanted to put my hand on yours and yell Go Justice League. Dinah cringed. The day we do that is the day I quit. Barry shrugged. I don't know, it sounds kind of cool. Oliver rolled his eyes. Of course you like it, you wanted us to call ourselves the Super Friends. We're superheroes and we're friends. And you can't tell me you never fantasized making like a Power Ranger with that. Think of us doing that in space, Oliver. Power Rangers in space. The only one I liked was Dino Thunder. Oliver shot back. Clark, Kara and Barry gasped loudly. What the fuck is Dino Thunder? Kiba asked. The real question is what's Power Rangers? Sasuke said. The number of things they'd talked about in the process of reading the last chapter alone had left him feeling out of the loop in a way that he didn't like. Something from their world, try not to think about it. Gaara said. Superman interrupted him once again. Absolutely not. That's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing now. We have faced other powerful aliens before but we stood united. Together, we could overcome them all. If we let just one setback break us apart we will be doomed. Superman is right, Batman, Wonder Woman said. Don't beat yourself too hard. Everyone makes mistakes once in a while. But we are a team and we pick each other up from the ground when we fall. Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern nodded and Flash grinned and rushed behind Batman and put an arm around his shoulder as if they were best pals. Batman glared at Barry who buried his face in his palms. Don't be such a sourpuss, Bats. He's just trying to cheer you up. Oliver waved him off. There's easier ways to do that than touch me. Pause. Dinah snickered. Flash had expected for Batman to growl at him like usual for getting too close into his personal space but, to his amazement, Batman did not as much as glare at him. For a moment, Flash even entertained the thought of asking are you the real Batman? But he wisely decided to not push his luck too much. So you have no problem with being embraced by a man, Kakashi eyed the man with an impish smile starting to form. Barry went pale. Tsunade concealed her grin with a hand. He seems to accept it even. Who knows, he might even enjoy it. Diana rubbed her chin. Maybe those shippers were onto something. No. For the first time since they'd arrived, Batman raised his voice, even if only a little louder than the usual volume. I don't know, Bats. You're like the only guy here who wears his suit extra tight. Dinah said. It's not just him, it's all of you, Tsunade pointed out. And especially you, she pointed at John. You're only wearing a pair of chest straps over underwear and a cape. Carol watched the blonde woman insult the men amusedly. If she thought they were wrong for dressing like they were going to audition for a spot in Magic Mike, she'd have an aneurysm when she saw what many of the superheroines wore. Today, I asked for everyone to be here because I wanted to talk to you about this. I am thinking of expanding the Justice League. We are opening a branch on Mars. Barry asked hopefully. Batman sighed. At Superman's words, noises of surprise came from the other heroes in the room. Over the past year, we've been through some tough times together. The last incident, in particular, showed me that the Justice League could use more members, more manpower. There are only 7 of us and the Earth is a very big place. It also looks like the more our technology advances, for some reason, the more often we get into contact with aliens. We have to step up our game. Wait, you're only 7. Kibis stopped reading to ask. We're more than 7, but over there, apparently not. Clark said. How many are you? The real question is how many can we be? Kara cut in. Clark raised an eyebrow. We? Yet, we. Me, you, the others. We. You must be speaking French, cause there's no you and I we. Kara groaned. Oh come on, you have a 10-year-old. Why not me? You're just not wait, what? Clark looked at Batman. We have a 10-year-old in the league. Yet, Shazam's 10. Didn't you know? Oliver said. Clark's mind raced. The magic user whose stature and power matched his own was 10. Martian Manhunter who had been silent until then spoke. I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, but we have to consider what the government's reaction would be. And not just the US government but the United Nations as well. The Justice League becoming too powerful will no doubt place a great amount of stress on them. Our decision to amass more power could be interpreted as hostile. We're already under the entire world's scrutiny. Yet, they'd probably think we're trying to make like the Justice Lords or something, Barry said. They don't have anything to worry about so long as you're still alive. Oliver patted him in the back. While the Justice League were discussing in detail the pros and cons of expanding their organization, a very loud alarm rang in the watchtower. They all stood up and rushed towards the control room, with Flash and Martian Manhunter being the first to arrive there. My name is Barry Allen. And I'm the fastest man alive, Barry bragged. You beat up a teleporter and you won't let us hear the end of it. Oliver grumbled. He did what? Naruto asked. I beat up a teleporter. Barry grinned. Punched his lights out the instant he appeared. That's nothing. Kakashi scoffed. One time, a person used the substitution technique and I killed him so fast, it was his corpse that got switched with the log. Everyone stared at him with looks varying from admiration to disapproval. Yikes. Oliver shuddered. 20 miles above the ground, somewhere above the Indonesian archipelago, a very large construct of green light in the form of a human hand stopped Coriander, Kyuubi, and the turned-to-stone Naruto in their flight. From behind them, a group of 5 people appeared, surrounding them from all sides. They were none other than Green Lantern, Superman, Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman, the 5 that could fly out of the 7 founding members of the Justice League. Diana and Care floated off their seats with smug smiles on their faces. Not wanting to be outdone, Clark rose off his seat till he was higher than them both, much to the amazement of the newcomers. Real mature, you 3. Real mature. Oliver mocked them. They can fly. Sakura whispered. Sasuke grunted, but even for him, it was a surprise. He'd never seen anyone levitate without the use of a technique, but it seemed to come as naturally as breathing to them. But when the Justice League got the chance to take a better look at them, they received a small shock. The turned-to-stone Naruto was terrible to look at. More than half of his body had become a statue and it had taken on a toad-like appearance. If it had not been for the tiny fox latching on from his waist and the red-haired alien girl holding them both and flying, they would have not recognized him. Jesus, no wonder he used to wear a mask, Jon Stewart unknowingly blurted out, earning himself a glare from Hawkgirl and Superman. Naruto scowled as Kara burst into laughter beside him. Talk about a face only a mother could love. Oliver smirked. Green Lantern did a fake cough to pass over the moment and then a green light came out of his ring and encased everyone in a sphere. A deep demonic growl came from Kyuubi's and a crimson-red chakra started to bubble around his tiny body when the green constructive light appeared to have trapped them, but he did not immediately attack them. He could feel no negative emotions coming from the Justice League. Just a sense of cautiousness and fear. The feeling's different when you know he's capable of destroying your planet. Hal commented. Sounds like you know what he's going through. Naruto said. I once carried what looked like a Rubik's Cube cum flower basket to OA. Turns out it was a galaxy-wiping bomb that gets activated from pressing a button on the side, and I'd been drumming on it throughout the journey. Talk about blind luck. Green Lantern started by saying quickly. We don't want to fight against you. I used my power ring just to isolate ourselves from the wind so we could talk. His words had merit because at 20 miles above the ground, the roaring winds would have made it almost impossible for them to converse otherwise. Why have you returned to Earth? And what in the world happened to him? Superman asked. Natural energy poisoning. We came back to Earth seeking asylum, Kyuubi said. Hey, it's the title of the chapter. Kiba exclaimed. Yet, it feels like those music tracks that get named after a line or word in the song. Barry agreed. Now that I think of it, who names these chapters anyway? You know, I never thought of that. Clark muttered with the rest agreeing. Who did name the chapters? Why did they even get separated into chapters when they were supposed to be a documentation of someone's life? He got drawn out of his thoughts by the side of Oliver tentatively stretching out a finger as if to poke something only he could see. What are you doing? Nothing. He quickly withdrew his hand. I told you to quit rewatching The Matrix. Dinah sighed. Why Earth of all the places? Martian Manhunter asked. Before coming to Earth 2 days ago, we had flown all the way from outside the 3,600 sectors of the universe. And then we flew straight to the Vega system. We didn't have enough fuel to reach a planet inhabited by sentient beings that were not in the middle of an intergalactic war or major civil unrest. Earth was the closest. Why does that feel like a backhanded insult? Kara squinted at the screen. Diana had to agree. She wasn't sure if she'd misheard the fox, but it sounded like he'd insulted them. Kyuubi could naturally talk to any sentient beings regardless of their language. However, that was not the case for Coriander. At least now I know how he said English back in that ship. Clark said. What, did you think people spoke English in space too? Hal asked a bit teasingly. The Kryptonian glared at him, but didn't respond. Besides the words of Green Lantern that had been automatically translated by his power thing, she could not understand a thing from what Superman, Kyuubi and the Martian said as they talked with each other. However, knowing Kyuubi's temper, she was getting increasingly anxious at the situation. She could feel that the fox was on the brink of blowing up at them. We don't want any trouble. We just need a place to rest and heal up because our ship was destroyed. Coriander said. What is the girl saying? Superman asked Green Lantern to translate. That their ship blew up and that they don't want any trouble. They momentarily stopped conversing amongst themselves because they realized that Kyuubi's situation was abnormal. I sense a great amount of rage coming from the fox alien. I would not be surprised if he attacked us at any moment. Stay on your guard. Martian Manhunter's voice sounded in everyone's mind. That's so creepy. Kiba muttered, having been enlightened about the Martian's shtick of reading minds. Don't be rude, Kiba. Sakura half-heartedly reprimanded him. He's just a Yamanaka, but green, bald, half-naked. And listening to you too. Sasuke said. They froze and slowly turned to glance at the Martian. True to Sasuke's words, he had fixed them both with an unblinking stare that gave nothing away. Kiba shuddered. No take-backs, he is creepy. The others became alert at his words because they knew not to be deceived about the fox's currently tiny appearance. According to the information that Green Lantern had shared with them before, that tiny fox was capable of becoming a behemoth that destroyed a planet. They knew that they had to make a decision fast before things got out of hand. If we let you come to Earth, what guarantee do we have that you won't start killing people left and right? Wonder Woman suddenly asked. What if he starts killing people right and left instead? Kara feigned thinking. That's not particularly clever. Diana said bluntly. Or funny. Naruto chipped in. She pouted. Tough crowd. Diana Hawkgirl and Superman attempted to stop her. They thought that asking such a blunt question was undoubtedly going to enrage the fox, and that was literally the last thing they wanted to do at that moment. To everyone's great surprise, however, at Wonder Woman's words, the crimson energy swirling around Kyuubi seeped back into his body and he visibly took on a calmer appearance. Artemis blessing. Naruto looked at Diana wearily. She grinned. Listening to her mother's request, Wonder Woman had not told anyone yet that only the previous night she had become a demigoddess. That is to say that her powers were naturally stronger than before, including her affinity to nature and wild animals that Goddess Artemis had blessed her with. I don't understand, what does that have to do with the Kyuubi? Sakura asked. It means animals are less likely to be violent with her. In fact, they're calmed by her presence. Naruto explained. But it's not an animal. Sasuke pointed out. It's not even organic. Naruto shrugged. I don't know why her blessing affects him, maybe it does so with everything even remotely animalistic. The Uchiha couldn't find any way to argue with that. In addition, Kyuubi himself did not want to be angry and start a fight with anyone at that moment. Wonder Woman's influence helped him to restrain his volatile emotions and rage. The fox replied to her question in a much calmer voice than before, clearly more in control of himself. All I want is a place for my brother to recover. I have no intention of causing any trouble. As long as no one disturbs us, you have my word. Do this for us and we will owe you a favor. You should be well aware of what someone of our power owing you a favor means. Unless he can grant 3 wishes, no. Barry folded his arms. He can do a magic trick though. Kara said. Barry blinked. He can. Yashi grinned. He can make your enemies disappear. Naruto rolled his eyes as Kurama's pride reached him. Even he had to admit that was a good one. As Kyuubi said, the Justice League was keenly aware of how important was a favor from Naruto and Kyuubi. But the question present in everyone's mind then was, can he be trusted? But even if they could not trust him, they did not really have a choice. The Justice League was not confident in regards to a fight against the Fox alien. Even more importantly, they had to think about the safety of the over 100 million people living in the archipelago of islands below because unlike the first time around, they no longer underestimated Kyuubi. For all they knew, the fox could easily blow up half the ocean in its rage. I don't think he'd attack you guys just because you told him no. Naruto stated. You understand that us refusing means you'd die and he'd blame us for it, right? Clark asked. Oh, that's true. Naruto admitted. Well, best tell him yes, okay. And you don't, he'll huff and he'll puff and he'll blow your oceans up. Oliver grunted loudly as he spoke. Isn't it down? Diana asked. Yeah, but you can't blow an ocean down, can you? You can't blow it up either. Diana argued. You can. Naruto and Kara said at the same time. Sasuke looked away awkwardly. Oliver snapped his fingers. Oh yeah, you weren't around in 1954. Did I really miss that much in the 50s? Diana had to ask. Just how much happened in that decade? In the end, it looked like the current scenario was the best case possible, them coming to an agreement and the aliens even owing them a favor. Superman and Martian Manhunter looked at each other for a moment before they turned and nodded at Wonder Woman. Having realized that the Fox was more open to talking to her than anyone else, they let her speak for the Justice League. We agree to grant you asylum on our planet. We hope that you will not break your promise. But first, we'll take you to the Watchtower. Our medical equipment is better than what regular hospitals on Earth have. It's not something that medicine and science can fix. His condition and my rage are problems of a magical nature. But your presence feels calming. It's helping me focus. You feel different than before. Kyuubi said, his split crimson eyes peering into Wonder Woman's eyes. Diana frowned. He could see what the braces suppressed? How? He can sense these things. Naruto spoke as if reading her mind. Oh. Diana nodded. Wait, how did you know? It's obvious what you were thinking. Kakashi answered for the blonde. The Amazon princess was secretly startled. I'm wearing the bracelets of submission. They're supposed to hide my true nature even from the gods. How did he feel it? It was Hawkgirl that spoke next. A friend of ours, Dr. Fate, is a great sorcerer. He may have a solution to your problem if it's of a magical nature. Inwardly, Kyuubi was a bit suspicious of their behavior. But he came to terms with it once he realized what the Justice League must be thinking at that moment. They're afraid of endangering the millions of people below. The Green Lantern Corps have surely found out about what we've done to the Science by now, so most likely the Justice League is aware of my power now too. That's why they're so willing to talk now, eh? Well, no matter. It works for us. Don't you just love it when things work in your favor? Dinah remarked. Word spreads really fast, huh? Naruto sighed. I think the real surprise would have been if they hadn't. The signs getting turned into a hashtag isn't something that'd fly under anyone's nose, especially not a team with a Thagnarian and a lantern in it. Hal said. As if he knew exactly what Kyrubi was thinking about, Green Lantern spoke at that moment. We understand how dangerous you are and we don't want to risk a fight that would endanger the lives of the innocent people below. But even if the Justice League might not be enough to stop you, you should know that the Green Lantern Corps most certainly can. I will also let you know that the Guardians have already classified you as a universal level threat and they have their eyes on you. Universal level threat? Sasuke asked. It means he's a danger to the universe as a whole, Hal clarified it for him. It's one of the highest threat levels you can place anyone under. Wait, there's higher? Barry asked. Hal nodded grimly. And you can stop them. Well, not all of them, but we can sure as hell keep a giant rampaging fox from dealing more damage than we can tolerate. Hal smirked. But there's the ones where if you have to see them, all's already lost. Shit. Kiba whistled. And I thought Kaguya was the worst we could face. Naruto stayed silent. If Tonari was right, there were those worse than her. Far worse than her. Green Lantern and Kyuubi looked into each other's eyes silently for a few seconds. As a Green Power Ring wielder, Jon Stewart's willpower was strong enough to look into Kyuubi's crimson red eyes without flinching in fear. That fact alone earned the man a bit of respect in Kyuubi's mind. Just as you said you don't want any trouble, we don't want any either. I am telling you this so you know that we do have the ability to fight back. Unexpectedly, Kyuubi nodded at his words. I gave you my word. I'm not a human. I do not lie. And there it is. Gaara chuckled. He'll never stop taking pot shots at humans, will he? Never. Naruto smiled. I don't get why you're smiling, you're human. Oliver grumbled. And I lie. Naruto shrugged. Just because you don't like it doesn't make him wrong. 2 weeks had passed since Kyuubi, Kurander, and the petrified Naruto had arrived on Earth and struck a deal with the Justice League. True to his promise, Kyuubi did not cause any incidents. Instead, he had spent most of his time sleeping, gradually eliminating the excessive berserk natural energy that he had previously absorbed. All I hear is an excuse. Naruto huffed. Fuck off. Kirama growled from within the seal. I hope my other self leaves you to die next time. He'll be following me soon after. Who's going to feed him? Diana watched Naruto's eyes become vacant before his facial expression changed rapidly. No matter how many times she saw it, she'd probably never get used to seeing him converse with a tailed beast in him. The Justice League had kept their word as well. Currently, a man dressed in a blue suit, a yellow cape and wearing a golden helmet was coming out of the javelin together with Superman and another blonde-haired teen girl. Hey, it's Dr. Fate. Gaara pointed at the helmeted man. Magpie would cream herself if she saw him. Oliver joked. Why do they call him that? Can he control fate or something? Kiba asked. Oliver looked at Batman who shrugged. He didn't know either. Dr. Fate. You've arrived. Green Lantern said as a form of greeting before raising an eyebrow and asking Superman, what's she doing here? A helpless expression appeared on Superman's face. She's been pestering me every day over the past 2 weeks to take her up to the watchtower. Meet my cousin, Gaara Kent. Gaara, this is Jon Stewart, a Green Lantern. You don't say. Gaara deadpanned. Clark sighed. But the girl in question was too busy ogling at her surroundings to notice the annoyance in Superman's voice. Nice to meet you, she said in a chirpy voice before taking flight, starting her exploration. So cute. It's like watching a baby in a new playroom. Naruto cooed at a flushed Gaara who glared at him. You'd think she didn't destroy $50,000 worth of equipment less than a day before. Batman said. Damn it, Batman, I'll pay you back. Clark glared at him. I'm sure you will. Batman rolled his eyes underneath his cowl. She's quite a handful, Green Lantern remarked. You don't know the half of it, Superman said inside. Despite his sighing and the tone of his voice, there was a smile on his face as he looked at Supergirl who was zooming around with no care in the world. Shall we go? Dr. Fate said from the side. The three men walked towards the hospital wing of the watchtower. When they arrived in front of the room where Naruto slept, Dr. Fate was the only one who stepped inside. Superman and Green Lantern remained outside, watching through the window. Sensing the newcomer's presence in the room, Kyuubi woke up from his slumber and opened his eyes. He had been sleeping on Naruto's chest, curled up and purring just like a cat. Hard to believe a fox as adorable as that is as dangerous as you say it is, Supergirl said when she came next to Superman and looked through the window just in time to see Kyoruby arching his back and stretching his tiny limbs as he yawned. Go pet him. Oliver snickered. Kara scoffed. You urge me to fuck around, but will you be there to help when I find out? That adorable fox can turn into a half-a-mile monster and blow up a planet. Appearances can be very deceiving. Green Lantern said. Truest words ever spoken. Kakashi voiced his agreement. Supergirl stuck her tongue at his words, making Superman chuckle and ruffle her hair with his hand. You're not acting very super, girl. Diana wagged her finger chidingly. Nice. Naruto fist bumped her. Oh come on, that was as lame a joke as mine. Kara complained. That joke of yours was a harder miss than Soul Train. Oliver said. Oh no. Barry gasped. So he is the one who saved me from Argo? She asked and looked at the sleeping Naruto with undisguised curiosity. Whoa. Are those whiskers? Why didn't tell me how cute he was? Well, how the turntables. Kara grinned at Naruto, who kept a stony face. And that was the beginning of the love story between the Kryptonian and the bounty hunter. Oliver said loudly. Ooh. Kibud. The 14-year-old Kryptonian and the century-old bounty hunter. Diana asked, keeping the mild irritation she felt out of her voice. Clark chuckled nervously. Wow, that turned from a Disney concept to a news headline real quick. At least there'll be singing and dancing. Barry tried to hold in a laugh. I'm Naruto Uzumaki and I'll refrain. Oliver pointed at Naruto, who raised an eyebrow, still not understanding the whole thing. I don't get it. What am I supposed to say? He asked. I hate your world. Superman palmed his forehead, feeling the beginning of a headache. He used to wear a mask. I couldn't see through it even with my X-ray vision. And if you saw him when he came back 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't think he was cute. He looked like a half-human, half-frog. It's only a few days ago that his face returned to normal. At least what we think it's his normal appearance. Half-frog? Naruto cried, offended. You take that back. You did look like a frog statue. Clark shot back. And you were hideous. It's Toad and you're just mad because your niece finds me attractive. Don't bring her into this. Will the two of you keep it down? Jesus. Kara stopped them both before they could continue. It was the 5th time Dr. Fate came to the Watchtower to cure Naruto. Living up to his name as the owner of the Helmet of Fate and one of the greatest sorcerers in the world, Dr. Fate did manage to alleviate some of the effects of the poisonous natural energy in Naruto's body and speed up his innate regeneration ability. Because of that, the stone and toad-like appearance of his face was reverted to his original looks. His petrified leg had been turned back to normal as well. Only one of his arms was still petrified. By the way, who is that girl? Following the direction that Supergirl was pointing at, Superman and Green Lantern noticed Karander, who was sitting on a sofa in the room, not far from where Naruto's bed was. The red-haired girl was focused on the PSP in her hands, busily pressing on its buttons. You'd think she wasn't capable of destroying a city block with how she's acting, Diana remarked. Appearances deceive, don't they? Naruto chuckled. The others, however, were more focused on something else. Oh god, it's a blast from the past. Kara slouched in her seat when she saw the console. I haven't even seen one in years. Seen what? That thing she's holding. Clark asked. If only you knew, Clark. Having that elevated your social standing like you'll never get. You got cannonballed into elite status the moment you showed up with one, especially if you had like 2 discs in the case with it. Kara chuckled nostalgically. I just liked it because it was a portable console. Barry sighed wistfully. Now, everybody's running around with a Switch and a Steam Deck. You'd think there weren't portable games before them. I've got to agree with that. Mario doesn't feel right to play on anything that isn't a Nintendo DS. Dinah chimed in. Or Red and Blue on a Game Boy. Oliver sighed. We are not that old, Ollie. Hal laughed. Neither am I. Dinah shrugged. Anyway, $12 say she's playing Little Big Planet. Oliver ignored the jabs at his age. 5 says she's playing Rock Band Unplugged. Barry countered. Kara scoffed. Please, we all know the only game that needs that much focus and commitment is Ratchet and Clank. Up your arse, now. Oliver snorted. Holy shit, I just realized the Anundis and all their titles. How the fuck did they get away with it all? Yet, games rule. Now let him continue. Clark grumbled. Wow, jealous much? Kara teased him. What, you didn't get to play games when you were young? After James Johnson made the news? I didn't even get to use a computer. Batman could understand why. If a 16-year-old self-trained hacker could break into the Pentagon at the time, it wouldn't stand a chance if a boy with a supercomputer for a brain decided to try his luck too. Oliver shook his head pityingly. That's rough, buddy. She's the girl that caused that big commotion in Jump City 2 weeks ago. Apparently, the signs have destroyed her homeworld, Tamarin. Myself and Wonder Woman are the only ones who can communicate with her. She doesn't know our language. Green Lantern said. I'm surprised you haven't put in a joke about a kiss. Kakashi said to Oliver. Now's not the time. Oliver lied. Supergirl grabbed the handle of the door and was about to go in, but Superman stopped her. Don't go in there or that fox will beat you up good if you barge in. Flash felt thin on his own skin. That fox doesn't like anyone else besides Dr. Fate and Wonder Woman. Supergirl made a bummed out sound. I can see why he'd like Dr. Fate. He's curing his friend's condition. But why does he like Wonder Woman? Because she makes him feel at peace. Naruto nudged Diana teasingly. You've been laughing at Care for the monkey stuff, but it seems you're in a bit of a hurry situation yourself. She is Greek. Kara smirked. I hope you're ready for the light though. I hear foxes scream at random and their pee stinks for days. I will not have relations with an animal. Diana shuddered. It took a different kind of degeneracy to be attracted to animals of all things. Green Lantern shrugged his shoulders. Beats me. Something to do with the blessing she received from the Greek gods, I guess. But I can't help thinking that something is different about her these days. You've noticed that, Superman? Or I'm just overthinking things. This feels like some sort of gag where the truth gets placed under everyone's nose, but they all miss it anyway. Oliver said. To be fair, if gods can't tell what it is, we don't have much of a chance. Clark shrugged. Superman nodded. I can't put my finger on what exactly is going on either, but she does look like she has something on her mind. Though Wonder Woman had always been rather serious and kept most things to herself, the rest of the Justice League had noticed the subtle changes in her after the Jump City incident. She became more introverted, she talked less than before, and she looked like she always had some pressing problems on her mind. Also, her hero costume had changed as well. Not that I'm complaining, Naruto grinned at Diana, who blushed lightly. You were alright in the last one, but you're straight fine now. Any means fine with 9 eyes. Kara nodded slowly. Faye. Are you really sure you don't swing the other way? Hal asked again. Just calling it as I see it. She stared matter-of-factly. She's definitely a lesbian. Oliver whispered to Dinah, who giggled. I can hear you. Oblivious to what Superman and Green Lantern were worried about, Supergirl knocked on the window and then started waving her hands, attracting the attention of Coriander, who was playing on her PlayStation Portable. Coriander tilted her head in curiosity at the blonde girl who was making her signs to come over. She looks friendly, Coriander thought, and her face was brightened by a smile. It's nice to see them about to hit it off. Naruto smiled. Diana nodded. I'm more happy for Coriander. Gods know she needs a friend. Naruto frowned. Hey, I'm her friend too. Your entire bonding session consisted of her tending to your petrified body and you giving her a head pat. Hal deadpanned. And mine with Gaara was me talking to him after punching him awake after he tried to kill me. Naruto pointed at Gaara, who nodded. Hold on, how can he try to kill you when he's asleep? You know what? I don't want to know. Over the past 2 weeks, she had started to feel cooped. Granted, it was nowhere near as bad as the years that she had spent in prison, but it was a fact that she was bored. Seeing a girl of her age apparently trying to make friends with her naturally piqued her interest. Leaving her PSP on the sofa, the Tamaran princess came out of the room. Hello. I'm Coriander. What's your name? She said and raised her hand for a handshake. She's saying hello and that her name is Coriander. She's asking you to introduce yourself, Green Lantern explained. Supergirl shook the redhead's hand and a bright smile appeared on her face. I'm Kara. It's nice to meet you. But Supergirl's smile became a little stiff when Coriander seemed like she did not want to let go of her hand even after like 5 seconds passed. Suddenly, she was pulled. What she began to say, but, before she could react, a soft feeling came from her lips, as Coriander kissed her on the mouth, muffling her words. A pin drop would have sounded like an explosion in the room at that moment, as even Sasuke's jaw went slack in his shock. Well, shit. Hal muttered. Oh, my God. Oliver took off his eyepiece. She kissed her. Sakura whispered, still trying to process what she was seeing. She really kissed her, on the lips. Well, that's something. Kakashi giggled perversely. It was in times like these that he wished he still had the Sharingan. Clark moaned in despair. First it was seeing Diana half naked and now this. Naruto had seen females kiss before, but when they both happened to be two of the most attractive ones he'd ever seen in his life? He had no idea what to say. I guess you have other things to worry about than monkeys now, Diana absent-mindedly remarked. Gaara mutely gaped at the screen. There were few things in life as surreal as watching yourself getting your first kiss stolen by a girl you just met, but even with her shock, another feeling grew in her. She didn't know what it was and a part of her didn't want to find out. Supergirl backed away with a small shriek and her hand covering her mouth. Her eyes were white and her cheeks were burning red in disbelief and embarrassment. Did I startle you? I'm sorry. My people have the ability to learn any language through the act of kissing. You stole my first kiss. Supergirl yelled in embarrassment, pointing a quivering accusatory finger at her. Her first kiss too. Oliver started quietly. She stole her mouth virginity. Dinah punched him in the shoulder annoyedly. You couldn't help it, could you? You look rattled. Perhaps it felt bad you? I quite enjoyed it. Your lips are very soft and they taste sweet. Did you eat strawberries before? Coriander said. Tsunade eyed Gaara amusedly. My, Gaara, that's quite the look on you. Everyone turned to look at the Kryptonian in question. True to the accusation, she sported a light blush and her eyes were still wide, a sign of how intently she stared at the screen. Oh wow. Gaara started. Oh wow. Gaara, it's not as bad as you think. Clark started to comfort her. Accidents happen all the time. The more than mildly concerned Naruto joined in. Yet, should I lost mine to Sasuke here? Hal blinked. Wait, what? Don't remind me. Sasuke's face soured. Oh wow. No. Clark placed his hands on her shoulders. Gaara, calm down, accident. You don't get it, Clark. She looked like she'd come to a horrifying realization. The gay one in that universe is me. Oliver's eyes widened as he came to the same conclusion. You don't have a son there, Supes, so the curse got passed on to her. Curse? Dinah raised an eyebrow. Oh. At her words, Supergirl gave up all pretense and just buried her face in her palms. Only her beet red ears could be seen. Coriander kissing Supergirl had been so out of the blue that Superman and Green Lantern were still watching the scene frozen. They had totally not expected something like that. You really helped me out a lot, Dr. Fate, Naruto said. Without your aid, it would have taken me around 2 months to recover up to this stage. Diana scoffed. You think 2 months is bad? Petrification is usually permanent. You only recover from partial petrification. Naruto replied. If I'd fully turned to stone, I'd be an ornamental statue by now, which would suck cause that'd mean I'm dead. I'm happy it worked out. We don't want a frog statue in the watchtower either. Clark said. Naruto glared at him. It's Toad. The man in question was sitting on a stool next to Naruto's bed. His slouched posture and his laborious breathing betrayed how exhausted he was. I did it for the people of Earth. If it's in my powers, I will naturally do something about it. It is in my interest as well for peace to be preserved. Add some formaldehyde to it and it'll last longer. Badum TSS. Don't force it, Oliver. Barry rolled his eyes. Naruto cited his words. You guys are treating us like ticking bombs. But I would never hurt innocents for no reason. Dr. Fate replied. You mean to say there were no innocents on the planet that you and your fox have destroyed? Can't argue with that, Naruto sighed. It can't be helped if the utilitarian choice has to be made. I'd have done the same had I been in your shoes. Diana assured him. Me too. Gaara nodded. It sucks that people have to die, but letting the science stick around? That's a no from me. Clark shook his head disapprovingly. Just what had they been teaching her on Krypton? A low growl came from Kyuubi, who was now sitting on Naruto's shoulder like he had used to do in the past. Naruto weakly brought his good hand up to pat him on the head and tell him to relax. I have no regrets about annihilating the Saiyans. There were no children or innocents among them. Only insane bastards who had taken over an entire system and took advantage of the Green Lantern Corps' preferential treatment to them and their pact of non-aggression to enslave and kill whomever they pleased in the Vegas system. Over the hundreds of millions of years that the Saiyans had lived, countless have died at their hands. Even so, I would have not attacked them just for that. I don't get involved in others' problems needlessly, and I certainly don't do it for free. But they targeted me. They bribed my information broker and then lured me into their territory with 2 very well-paid bounties, enough money that I could even buy a terraformed moon, all that so they could capture me. A fleet of almost 40 interstellar warships waited for me when I reached Tamarin. Though we easily dispatched them, I knew that the Scions would never give up on me, especially after learning that I am powerful enough to annihilate a fleet of warships. I would have probably ended up on one of their dissection tables too at some point if I didn't kill them all first. After all, I can't always be on my guard. I am human too, not a god. I'm not invincible. I ain't reading all that. I'm happy for you though, or sorry that happened. Oliver smiled as he made a perfect sign with his thumb and index finger. Naruto scowled as Kara, Barry and a few others laughed. What the hell was so funny about that? You're human too? Was what Dr. Fate thought in his mind and had the urge to ask but chose to stay silent and listen to what he had to say. He realized that it was a very rare occasion to find more about the alien's motivation and inner thoughts. A chance to see how his mind worked. I don't think playing therapist with him is a good idea right now. Hal tutted. There were 87 prisoners locked up in the labs of the Scions. Through the special abilities granted to me by this energy that you've helped me remove from my body, I could sense every single living being on the planet and the nature of their character. I could even get a peek into their thoughts with it. Naruto looked down seemingly deep and thought. I'm not happy about their deaths. If I could have saved them, I would have done it. But after a lifetime of traveling through the universe, I learned 2 simple truths: being kind to your enemies is being cruel to yourself, and that the world we live in is not such a pretty place where everyone can live happily ever after. When you constantly try to help everyone, you weaken not just yourself, but them as well. Tsunade said. It's the battles we face and conquer that make us stronger. It's our duty to try though. Clark argued. The only reason we're here at all is to help the people who can't help themselves. From the problems they can't face on their own, sure. But the way you say it, you do everything you can for them. She smiled humorlessly. Don't stop it. 87 people died as collateral damage. But I ensured my own safety, and I've also prevented hundreds of thousands or even more people that would have been captured and killed in the future by the Scions. I have liberated an entire system from their tyranny as well. Do you know that on over 20 planets in the Vega system hundreds of races have celebrated the day when the Scions died as the Day of Liberation? On many of those planets, they even erected statues of Kurama, and it looks like cults focused on worshipping him have started being formed. Can't believe anyone was going to give him shit for wiping them out. They're bigger menaces than we thought. Oliver whistled. No shit, man. I knew it was bad, but to the point where they'd worship anyone who killed them. Hal shook his head. I'll need to have a talk with the Guardians when I get back. But don't let this distract you from the fact that Savior Naruto's partner is now a bona fide god. Oliver put his hands together in prayer again. Naruto groaned. This again. You're definitely getting a cult, man. It's only a matter of time before they find out about you too, and before you know it, it'll be Clavicus and Barbas with you too. Clavicus and Barbas? Clark asked. Oliver gave him a pitying look. I knew it was bad, but not even knowing anything about Elder Scrolls? That's horrible. If Dr. Fate was silent before due to wanting to hear more about Naruto's thoughts, this time he became speechless because of what he heard. I see, people are finally realizing how great I am. It was about damn time if you ask me. Ha ha ha. But why is this the first time I heard about it? Kairubi said, his lazy appearance from before a stark contrast with how he was wagging his tails in excitement now. I bought this information from a news agency after I finally got my face back to normal a few days ago, Naruto said with a chuckle and tapped his wristwatch-like device. I wanted to know what had become of the Vega system after what we had done there. He turned his attention back to Dr. Fate and said, I'm not a psychopath or a ticking bomb that could explode at any moment. Believe it or not, I used to be no different than you and the Justice League when I was young. I was called a hero by my people. I've saved many lives. Even after my homeworld perished, I continued to carry those noble ideals and aspirations for many years. But time and tribulations change everything. In the present, in your and the Justice League's eyes, I'm probably just a deranged alien with more power than a man should have. He laughed bitterly. It's funny, isn't it? You either die young as a hero or live long enough to see yourself becoming the villain. Is it wrong that superhero was playing in my head as I was listening to all that? Kara asked out of the blue. Skillet. Batman twitched. It had to be that band. He refused to believe puberty sparked Dick's rebellious phase. No, Metro Boomin. She specified. Yet, I kind of see it now. Oliver admitted. Hey, Kiba. See if there's more speeches down the book. Alright, I've got you. Kiba cleared his throat. The chapter's over. Oliver scowled. Fuck you. It came as a large surprise to the group when as soon as the chapter was over, the three ninjas who'd been brought in disappeared in a puff of smoke. I thought we had to finish the book to be able to leave. Barry gaped at the spot where Kiba had once sat. Even the chair was gone. Apparently, whatever brought us here can take us out whenever. Hal said. Come on, let us out. Oliver yelled into the distance. Are we really that bad company? Kara asked. No, but come on, we got shanghaied here to read about stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with us specifically. Are you really saying you don't want out? Of course we all want to leave, but it's kind of obvious that it's not happening anytime soon. Naruto said before looking at the other two ninjas and Jean. At least not for those of us that's been shown. Kakashi hummed. So you're saying we could get taken away at any point? It looks like it. Clark replied for the blonde. Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not about to start dwelling on that. Kara raised herself up into the air and reclined herself horizontally as she slowly flew above everyone's heads. You're being very casual about this. Naruto commented. So are you. She replied. He shrugged. I'm kind of used to having stuff be out of my control. You learn to just roll with things and hope they turn out for the best. That's the same thing with me, she grinned. See, this is why blondes have all the fun. Naruto's eyes widened. What? She blinked. What? Never mind, he sighed. Jiraiya had corrupted him more than he thought. She grinned impishly and twirled in the air. So when are we going to start the next chapter? We need more speeches like the last one. I'm guessing that's part of the metro booming something you mentioned. Diana asked. Kara grinned. Oh yeah. You really should listen to rap music, Heroes and villains? Nothing but heat. I don't know. Oliver looked to the side. There's some pretty suspicious words in there. Clutching glizzies with the fellas doesn't mean what you think it does, Oliver, and there's a lot of pause moments in MMA but you guys watch it anyway. Kara retorted. Dinah snickered. You better win your fight cause I'm coming on your ass, bae. I'm coming for that ass. Not one of all Joe's finest moments, Clark shook his head. Oliver glared at her. You know what he actually meant. I don't think I do or want to, Ollie. Barry shivered. Lots of homoeroticism in the sport, huh? An amused Naruto asked. Diana nodded with a smile. You have no idea. I once saw two men kiss during their face-off. Naruto blinked. Damn, really? And you watch that? I watch every fighting sport there is, both the ones with men and women. Diana shrugged. It's good sportsmanship. I just like to see people beat the shit out of each other. It's like Fight Club, but legal and there's no deeper message. Oliver said. Naruto thought for a moment. We have the Chunin exams in our world, but it only holds twice a year. What's that? Barry asked. A series of examination stages to determine whether a candidate is eligible for promotion to the Chunin rank. Kakashi interrupted Naruto. Something that Naruto has yet to pass. Because I don't need one. Naruto preened. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm more important than all the Chunin and Jonin combined. You kind of are tooting your own horn. Kara pointed out. Not to toot it too loudly then. That's better. She spun in the air. Okay, when do we get to continue? Why? You want to see more of your true love? Diana teased. Who? The monkey or the horse? Naruto snickered. I think it's the girl. Diana's smile widened. They did have a passionate moment in the last chapter. I hate both of you, Kara said flatly. From the bottom of my heart. Really? She must hate us because we are not animals, Naruto. Diana lamented exaggeratedly. For shame, Kara. Naruto shook his head. But then again, I knew something was wrong with the way you looked at Kirima when he got introduced. I saw it in your eyes. The lust, the desire. The passion. Diana added. He set your soul on fire, and it was a deep, roaring flame. I can feel it now. Clark said quietly. Easy on the romance novels, Dinah patted the woman's shoulders. And the only desire I feel is the desire to murder you. Kara glared at Naruto. Don't worry, Kara. We do. Hal cut the blonde short. Wait, we can't ignore this. How the hell do you know how that ends, Clark? The Kryptonian flushed. Lois makes me read them with her. She has good taste, Diana commended his girlfriend. There are few pleasures in life like being able to settle down with a good book and a bowl of ice cream. The diabetes speedrun is real, Oliver remarked. Diana shrugged. After millennia of eating nothing but fruits, meat and honey, junk food was a breath of fresh air and she would continue to inhale it until there was none left to take in. At this point, I'm convinced that severe unhealthy habits is the basis for gaining great power. Kakashi said. No, it's not. Look at me, I don't eat unhealthily and I can still shatter boulders with a hand. Tsunade pointed at herself. You drink more alcohol in a week than I've drank in my entire life, Kakashi deadpanned. That's not eating, so my point still stands, she smirked before realization struck her. By the gods, I'm starting to think like you. The silver-haired man merely smiled. Give it enough time and you'll start wearing a mask too. To hide what? Tsunade scoffed. To hide your face so people don't get instantly bewitched by your dazzling looks. I get the feeling you're talking more about yourself than me. Why? Because, she fumbled for something before giving up. Has anyone even seen your face? Well, there's my father, my mother probably, the people who helped birth me. You can stop now. She sighed. No. It's coming back to me now. She scowled as he began to name everyone who'd seen him as a baby. How he knew who they were, she was sure she was better off not knowing. Horizontal ellipsis. Eventually, the book opened again unannounced and flew into Naruto's hands. The blonde stared at it. I guess it's just going to be looping around us from now on. Death loop. Naruto blinked. What? What's that supposed to mean? She grinned sheepishly. It's a game. It comes to my mind every time I hear the word loop. Clark shook his head. Imagine if I actually got you a console and you didn't have to Barbara's to play video games. Joke's on you because I'm saving up for a PlayStation 5. Oliver, Barry and Hal burst into laughter. Even Batman let out a quiet chuckle. Oliver wiped a tear from his eye. It took me pre-ordering with a Connect the day before it was made public to get one, and even then, I had to get it delivered to my doorstep. So it's all gone? She asked despairingly. No wonder Barbara had laughed when she told her the same thing. With the wind, my dear. Barry smiled. I had to use the Speed Force to register. Dick got mobbed at the store when he went to get his. Batman joined in. Oh God, she sighed. Naruto looked at Diana, who shrugged. Right, you're not all that conversant either. As everyone quietened down, he opened the book and the screen came down as he began to read. Chapter 13, Crisis, I. Of Two Earths. Barry said. Oliver blinked. What? Nothing, the speedster smiled at Ted grimly. You can't be serious. A tall and athletic woman said angrily and slapped the table with her palm. But, without meaning to, she put too much strength into it and the long and luxurious conference table was smashed to bits, making everyone else back away, startled. The table. Oliver screeched. You monster. We made so many memories there, Barry wailed. Diana looked at them strangely. We don't even have this table in the watchtower. Actually, we do. It's the one we took to Mount Justice so we could have a new one installed, remember? Clark reminded her. Oh. She blushed, embarrassed. The Kryptonian frowned. Wait, you never even noticed the table was different. Dinah blinked. It is. I just thought you had it polished. What? No. Clark couldn't believe it. Did none of you really notice? To be fair, most of us don't spend enough time in the watchtower to know when things change. Hal pointed out. Barry nodded. Yet, we're not table enthusiasts. It's not like we can notice every minute detail and furniture. It is literally a different shape and color. He was going to continue until he saw Oliver's lip quiver. You're just messing with me, aren't you? Yes, Clark. We all are. Diana lied. I wonder what set you off that badly though, Naruto said. Diana didn't seem the type to lose her temper so violently. Yet, wrecking stuff when she's pissed is usually hot girl's thing. Barry said. If she found out you were trying to plagiarize her thing, she'd punch a hole in the wall and try to brain the first criminal she saw. The ninjas shared a look. That sounded a lot like Sakura. Your reaction just now proves my point, Superman said. I don't know what happened, but there is clearly something wrong with you. Over the past 2 weeks, you've been distracted, made mistakes you wouldn't make normally, and you've become very quick to anger too. Today you broke the arm of that robber and then lassoed him and dragged him on the ground to the police station. Naruto whistled. That's awfully brutal of you, Diana. Diana flushed. It must be something terrible because I'm usually not that violent. Yet, excessive brutality is Batman's brand. Oliver pointed at Batman, who stayed silent. Clark was quick to jump to his friend's defense. He doesn't use more force than he needs to. I saw him hip toss a guy so hard, his back broke. Oliver argued. And that was in my city. Imagine what he does to people in Gotham. He's worse there, Dinah stated. A friend of mine who does therapy in Blackgate said there's lots of inmates with caved-in skulls from his blows. I think it's impressive. Kakashi said. His strength, I mean. The skull isn't easy to damage. You do the same. No, but I once punched a Kiranin so hard, his head flew off with bits of his neck and spine still stuck to it. It wasn't a pretty sight. You could still see his blood vessels hanging out. Once again, everyone stopped to stare at the man. Is there any anecdote you can share that doesn't involve murder? Like funny ones? Clark sighed. I've been in the business since I was 5, so no, not really. That's sad. Kara muttered awkwardly. Nobody bothered to question how or why a 5-year-old would be sent out to fight. In a society where using child soldiers was the norm, it didn't sound out of place. But I have the sexual ones if anyone's interested in hearing them. No one was interested in hearing them. Now that was funny. It was like a scene out of a Wild West movie. Flash piped up and laughed, but he was the only one laughing. Noticing the glares everyone was directed at him, he swiftly shut up. Really? Barry stared at the heroes blankly. You should have read the room. Hal shrugged. Your fault. That's rich coming from you. Barry snorted. The Lantern was one of the most insensitive people he knew. Until you get a grip of yourself, it's best you take a break. I don't want you hurting someone for real or worse. Superman said. I kind of like the way you say the for real, Clark. Kara moved her hand as if trying to pinpoint something. It's got this slurry tone to it, like you're mixing in a country accent in. It'd make a killer ad-lib. Oliver agreed. I'm in the spot. For real. Kara mimicked her cousin. I got the clock. For real. Pull up to your block. Fo. That's enough. You too. Clark sighed. Just where had he gone wrong with her? No sir. Kara shook her head. We're in the zone. We're super gangbanging, super dre. Naruto silenced her by placing his hand in her mouth only to shiver a second later as saliva bubbled through the lines between his fingers. You spat on my hand. The girl is in her name for a reason, Diana smirked. Kara scowled at the Amazon. Hey, you don't wipe your hand on my shirt, Naruto. Green Lantern also added. You're not in control of your emotions, princess. Losing control in the field could spell disaster both for us and for other people. Superman is right. Take some time and rest. Besides, someone has to stay behind and keep an eye on the alien mercenary and his fox. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yes, because a paraplegic man and his partner can cause widespread destruction. You can, Clark insisted. We just saw you in Kurama End a World a few chapters back. I wasn't in a wheelchair then though. Naruto raised a finger. But hey, it's not that bad. At least my other gets to spend time with Diana here. Considering her current temperament, I'm not sure that's a good thing, Diana said. Worst case scenario, I'll give you Kurama to cuddle or something. A loud growl reverberated in his head. The Amazon smiled. I don't think he'd take too kindly to that. Trust me, he will. Martian Manhunter suddenly called them from the control room of the watchtower. Everyone, Lex Luthor is on the move. He had stolen valuable pieces of technology from Star Labs. We have to move fast and intercept him. Barry groaned. Oh come on, again? Kakashi chuckled. I'm guessing that's a recurring thing. You have no idea, the speedster lamented. The lab gets robbed at least once a month. If it's not some random supervillain looking for tech for a quick buck or to upgrade their stuff, it's Lex Luthor stealing something for his plan to take us down. Clark scoffed. You think you have it bad? I could just be going about my way one afternoon and boom, I get attacked by Metallo or Ultra Humanite or Lex with some new reason to hate me. Naruto snorted. I had an entire terrorist organization hunting me down. Amateurs. The three paused. What? I said. Batman smirked. Amateurs. At the Martian's call, everyone rushed out of the conference room except for Wonder Woman. She let herself drop on the chair and with her elbows on her knees, she buried her face in her palms. She let out a deep sigh. Out of habit, an exclamation came out of her mouth. Great Hera. There. Naruto rubbed the Amazon's shoulder. It could be worse. You could have been encased in a block of wood for hours like I was. Diana blinked. What? Why would that happen? Injustice, Diana. All I did was fly off the handle a bit. That flying off the handle a bit involved you going berserk and trying to kill us all, Kakashi said. You've got to tell both sides of the story. It's the little things that get to them. Naruto shook his head. Can you believe that? You go on a rampage once and all of a sudden, you're dangerous. That hardly sounds fair, she giggled. But after realizing what she said, she gnashed her teeth and, standing up, she kicked her chair into the opposite side of the room. Yet, people tend to become less great in your eyes when you know they'll kill you if they find out you're their husband's kid, Gaara said. So that means Hera is the evil stepmother here. Barry mused. Looks like it. I see. Anger management issues. A deep voice was heard from the entrance of the room and a chortle followed. Turning around, she saw a small fox cub in the doorway with his fluffy nine tails wagging lazily behind him. She pinched the bridge of her nose and took in a deep breath before exhaling out loud, attempting to calm herself down. Just then, a man in a wheelchair came from behind and picked the fox cub from the scruff of his neck as if he was a cat and put him in his lap. Don't tease the poor girl, Kirama. You think you know me, Oliver grinned. Be careful how you speak to me, young man. I've lived 10 of your lifetimes. Diana chided Naruto, who rolled his eyes with an amused smile. And here you are mushing up with him. Gaara spoke. Talk about robbing the cradle. You're over twice his age too, Diana retorted. Chronologically, Gaara stressed. I don't mind getting my cradle robbed. Naruto shrugged. It was Naruto. A bit over 3 weeks passed since the Saiyan's annihilation, and by now, with Dr. Fate's help, all the infected natural energy had been expelled from his chakra pool and his body had reverted to normal. He was only left with a temporary feeling of weakness. In his books, he considered himself fine, nothing that a few dozen bowls of ramen could not fix, but the sorcerer insisted that he did not do any effort for a few more days, not even walking until he fully recovered. Is there something you need? Wonder Woman asked stiffly. Your bedside manners need improvement, Hal told Diana, who ignored him. I was on my way to grab some food from the kitchen for Kirama when I heard you guys arguing. Trouble in paradise. They grounded her, Kairubi said, and snickered like a hyena. Naughty girls get sent to their rooms. It's kind of embarrassing when you realize she's older than all of us combined, Clark commented. Except maybe Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Diana grunted. You don't have to bring up my age all the time. How old are you exactly? Kakashi asked. She's still in her prime. Gaara sighed enviously. Naruto involuntarily sniggered too, but he quickly tried to mask it with a fake cough when he saw the woman's eyes almost spewing fire from how hard she was glaring. Why? What did you do? Seeing her refusing to answer, Naruto shrugged and turned his wheelchair around. Oh well. If you want to talk, I can lend you an ear while Kirama eats. Gaara hummed. If you're bored enough, you can listen to anything. Diana frowned. Are you implying that I'm boring? No, but come on, he's trying to listen to your problems even though he barely knows you. That's not concerned stranger behavior, that's bored convalescent behavior. It's not, Tsunade shook her head. Naruto's similar in that aspect too. Not waiting to hear her reply, he pushed his wheelchair out of the conference room and headed towards the elevator. He was halfway there when he felt someone push his wheelchair from behind. He let his head back and looked up to see who it was, but it was not possible to see their face due to the large pair of breasts obscuring his view. Nonetheless, it became clear to him who that was. Wow! They're so much bigger up close, was his first honest thought. They are pretty large, Gaara nodded. It should be me. Naruto flushed along with Diana. It wasn't necessarily him, but it was still embarrassing to read out his other self's intrusive thoughts. It didn't help that he wholeheartedly agreed with them. That's flattering, the Amazon whispered to him. Do you think that too? He nodded gently. Yet they're pretty big. Tsunade commended the woman before smirking. Not as large as mine though. Kakashi sighed. At least she didn't start groping herself. But his eyes did not linger for more than 2 seconds because he practically felt Kairubi starting to grin under his whiskers. He did not want the fox to do a repeat of what he had done after the incident with the Queen of Elmirac, Maxima. He had laughed at him even months after that incident. How do you feel about your ride or die being interested in another man, Clark? Gaara clasped her hand around an imaginary microphone and brought it to her cousin's face. Clark pushed her hand away irritably. She's not my ride or die and I don't like her. I'm with Lois for Pete's sake. He's in denial, she said to Naruto. He's actually very hurt by this. Don't worry, I'm sure she'll come back to you if you get rich. Barry patted the man's shoulder with a handful of banknotes. Clark looked at them. Why do they say for motion picture use only? Because my life is a movie. The speedster grinned. Clark sighed. He needed new teammates. Ridiculously loud sounds of chewing and swallowing were coming from a tiny fox as he gorged himself with food. If in the elemental nations Kyurubi could be described with one of the 7 deadly sins, it would have been the sin of wrath. In the present, however, nothing fit him better than the sin of gluttony. His stomach was like a bottomless pit. I'm forever glad that you're just a lazy fox who likes to sleep all day, Naruto said to Kurama in his mind. I don't know, I've been feeling peckish lately. The last time I slept, I dreamt of eating a herd of cattle. Naruto snorted. Good one. I'm serious. I'm going on a binge-eating spree the next time you release me. He began to sweat. It is amazing how much he can eat no matter how many times I see it, Wonder Woman said as a means of getting the conversation started. That's not what you wanted to talk about, was it? Jesus, at least grease the conversation first. Oliver shook his head. Naruto rolled his eyes. Forgive me for not wanting to beat around the bush. I prefer it this way actually, Diane agreed. I'm not fond of the preamble and dancing around the topic at hand. It's the only thing about my ambassadorial position that I hate. Naruto stared at her with wide eyes. I thought it was just me. It's not, Naruto. It really isn't, she complained. We could spend hours in one room and eventually not agree on what we even met for. And then you have to come back the next day and repeat the same thing. Naruto joined her. Kakashi tried to argue. It can't be that bad. I spent a week in Rock Country trying to mediate the agreement on how much they'd add as tax onto the price of the salt they sell to Grass Country. Salt? The cage grimaced. Maybe it was that bad. At his question, the prince's shoulders slouched. It's a long story. I don't know where to start from. Just start from the beginning. Not like I have anything else to do here, he said, and he poured himself a glass of orange juice. Yet, he's definitely bored. Kara nodded to herself. I can kind of see it now, Hal admitted. Why am I even talking to a stranger about these things? Wonder Woman muttered mostly to herself. You look like you needed someone to talk to and I was bored. But it's up to you, he said easily and took a big gulp of juice from the glass. Called it? Carol laughed. Yeah, we get it, settle down. Clark grumbled. Wonder Woman sighed. It started 3,000 years ago when I was born. Sounds of coughing came from Naruto as he choked with his juice, and even the gluttonous fox stopped eating and looked at her instead with wide eyes. Tsunade looked like she was about to have a stroke. What? We were like that too when we found out, Oliver laughed. You're older than both the sage and the tailed beasts, a white-eyed Kakashi muttered. I knew you had many years under your belt, but this is insane. And she said it so casually like she didn't outlive the entire medieval era. Barry shook his head. Naruto looked at Diana, who seemed to have found the roof and floor interesting. If it makes you feel better, it doesn't change anything for me. You're still fine. She smiled, still a tad embarrassed. Oliver grinned. But the grooming allegation would be crazy. Did I hear well, or is my translation device broken? Did she just say she's 3,000 years old? Naruto asked Kyuubi in the native language of their home world. Unlike Naruto, Kyuubi did not need a translating device. He could understand any language spoken by intelligent beings in the universe naturally. No, you heard right. I can feel that she isn't lying either. Kyuubi also said in amazement. By the void, she's even older than you. Naruto said in disbelief. And I thought Tsunade was a granny posing as a young woman when she was only in her 50s, but this girl, no, this woman is a many times grandmother. If looks could kill, Naruto would have been a decomposed corpse from the glare both Tsunade and Diana sent him. He did not finish his words because Wonder Woman suddenly grabbed him from the collar of his sweatshirt. Do you want to spend the rest of your life in that wheelchair? I'm in danger. Naruto chuckled awkwardly. Kurama, a little help? I'm still a patient. Relax, she doesn't have any ill intent, Kyuubi said and went back to eating. That threat falls flat hard now you know she's not actually going to do anything, Kara remarked. I know, right? Naruto nodded. Just because I don't have ill intent doesn't mean I can't or won't hurt you. Diana said. You wouldn't physically abuse someone like me, would you? Naruto tried his most innocent look. Thomas Blake thought I wouldn't hurt him because he was dressed as a cat until I sent him to the hospital, Batman smirked. Kara's eyes narrowed contemplatively. If he knows about your history with Catwoman, wouldn't that mean he was actually hoping you'd fuck him or something? Batman's smirk vanished. Wonder Woman did feel like wanting to smack him once, but when she sensed a killing intent lying dormant inside the fox, she wisely decided to let go of Naruto and sat back on her chair. Is he always that malicious? Clark asked. A constant state of anger can't be healthy for anyone. Tell that to Doom Guy. Oliver high-fived Barry. Naruto waved the man off. He's a lot more mellow now. 7 years ago, he would have attacked you all on sight on the mere principle of you being alive. Wouldn't he take offense to that? Dinah pointed at his gut. It's the truth, Naruto shrugged. And he's asleep again. Are you always that short-tempered? Sheesh. Naruto complained as he smoothed the wrinkles on his shirt after she let go of him. Wonder Woman appeared to be distracted by his words. In truth, she was usually nowhere near as impulsive as she had become as of late. No, but you're impulsive now. Kara made finger guns. Eh? Eh? 2 things, Kara. Hal raised 2 fingers. 1, that was terrible and you should be ashamed of yourself. 2, we don't talk about Paul. The Kryptonian deflated. Anyway, I was at fault too, he continued. Looks like no matter the planet or race, all women are sensitive about their age. Should have kept my mouth shut. Hold up, how did you even know what I was saying? Goddess Athena's blessing allows me to communicate with people regardless of their language. Wonder Woman said, and he made an impressed sound. Sounds like a boon gained via divine nepotism to me, Kakashi sighed. You had pretty much all the Olympians bless you. What exactly did you get from them all? Clark asked. More than what I use regularly. Diana's grin was that of the cat that ate not only the canary, but drank all the dairy in the farm. That's so convenient. But 3,000 years, that's even more than the entire recorded history of my homeworld. It's crazy when I think about it. As someone who's lived for so long, what exactly managed to rattle you that badly? It's like seeing someone like Elon Musk depressed, Barry agreed. You know, if it makes him depressed, it would push anyone else to suicide. You're kind of alone in that aspect, man. Oliver raised his hands. Half the people here are rich as shit. He looked around. Okay, more than half. I think you, Hal, Kara and probably Jean are the only people who aren't rich as shit. The people mentioned glared at him. Save for Kara, they were financially stable. Understanding what Naruto was implying, Wonder Woman shook her head. Although I've lived for so long, I'm not as experienced in life as you think. Until about a year ago, I have lived on the island of paradise, with my Amazon sisters, away from the evils of the world. I didn't go through any problems or difficulties until I came to the man's world. On Themyscira it was different. Just like me, my mother and my fellow Amazon sisters, everyone else was immortal. There were no crimes and any conflicts that we might have had, we solved them in a fair fight on the training grounds. It was paradise. I didn't notice the passing of time the way I do now when I live among regular people. We would spend most of our days training, singing, praying to the gods, and that's a very sheltered life. Naruto remarked. Monotonous too. You just eat, train, pray and sleep. Diana shrugged. It was the only life I knew until I came to man's world, and like my other self, I saw new things, both good and bad. Would have made for a nasty case of culture shock, huh? Naruto joked. Especially since you said you only came back after an entire era had passed. Yet, I think that's the most jarring. I hadn't even gotten used to the 20th century, and when I returned after a few years, it was the 21st century, Diana exclaimed. I had no idea how things had changed so fast. Yet, we all know. Oliver grinned. You called a German a kraut to his face. The Amazon flushed. That's what Steve called all of them. Steve. Naruto raised an eyebrow. He crashed on Themyscira. He's part of the reason why I went to man's world in the 40s, she explained. Damn, you came all the way to man's world for a man. Carol whistled. Was he your boyfriend or something? Diana's smile was a tad rueful. The dating thing didn't quite take off between us. We were both too busy with our respective lives. It didn't help that the second time she returned, he'd moved on with his life. Same. Naruto nodded. He'd tried his hand at dating a few times, but none of them lasted more than a month. He moved around too much and rarely had time to actually spend with them. She trailed off, seemingly at her loss. And what else? Naruto asked. That's all we did, she said uncomfortably, suddenly becoming aware of how wrong that sounded. That's all you did? Tsunade repeated disbelievingly. Am I the only one glad I'm not an Amazon right now? Everyone raised their hands. Diana pouted. It's not as bad as you think it is. The only difference between you and your sisters is that you're open-minded enough not to hate everything with an XY chromosome, Barry pointed out. Someone tried to kill us at least 6 times a week. Why do you have to dwell on my sisters? Because it feels wrong, the speedster said half-heartedly. Seeing all those beautiful women packed into one place had made his heart skip a beat. Until one of them tried to perforate it with a spear. That's all he did for 3,000 years. Naruto looked at her as if she had grown 2 heads. He had lived for only around 110 years, but he had had so many adventures back in his homeworld and then during his travels as an intergalactic mercenary that he could fill tens of books with them. I could probably earn a living just from writing novels about my adventures and selling them, he mused. The tale of the gallant Naruto. Kakashi smiled. More like the misadventures of Naruto Uzumaki, Tsunade corrected. It reads adventures, Granny. Naruto smiled at the former Kage mockingly. Is your age finally catching up to you? No, it'd be more like Naruto's story, spiraling leaves above cooling noodles. Kakashi came up with another one. I don't want leaves in my noodles. I don't even like normal vegetables. Naruto frowned. It's not literal. Kakashi sighed. And if I was going to write an autobiography, I wouldn't use any of your ideas. I'd come up with a better one. Naruto said proudly. Kakashi scoffed. The only person with a worse naming sense than you is your father. Dad had cool ideas. He wanted to call the Rasengan the spiraling. Let's not get into that now, Hatake. Tsunade cut him off. Keep reading. Numerous life and death battles, hilarious moments, embarrassing incidents, the thousands of different places he had seen, the different creatures and races he had encountered and so on. All that, in less than 120 years. Yet someone like Wonder Woman who had lived for over 3,000 years resumed her life experiences in one sentence. Training, singing and praying? Diana's face soured even more. There's no reason to brag, I get your point already. Naruto laughed nervously. Other me, Diana. My life's been pretty boring since the war. Something tells me that's Major Cap. Kara puckered her lips and looked away. How can someone live such a dull life and not get sick of it? It's freaking 3,000 years. A look of helplessness flashed on Wonder Woman's face. With her intelligence, once she became aware of it, it was not difficult to deduce that the Amazons not noticing the passing of time and them never getting sick and tired of doing the same thing, training, all over again for thousands of years was not natural. It was because of the gods. A spell must have been cast on Themyscira to make them mindlessly chase just one goal, that of protecting the gates of Tartarus and nothing else. They were like attack dogs trained and locked up to protect the courtyard, never to leave or even think of escaping. That's a pretty dark reason for living life like that. Kara remarked. Would they even do that? I wouldn't put it past them, Diana sighed. In spite of her disposition, she hadn't fully moved past the truth behind her origin and now, she had to deal with the possibility that all her sisters were under divine mind control. It was causing her a crisis of faith that she wasn't sure she was or would ever be ready to deal with. Even if it's true, the important thing is you got out, Naruto told her. Rather than linger on that, try finding out if it's true and if it's possible to free your sisters from its influence. I'll see to that when I return, thank you. She nodded resolutely. Indoctrination, isolation and mind control. Hal shook his head. They're really pulling all the stops, aren't they? I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know what I should do. She said in exhaustion. She had never been as confused and mentally exhausted as that before, and that led to moments like the previous scene when her bottled-up emotions blew up and she smashed the table in the conference room with a slap. Wonder Woman did not have any real close friends to confide in either. Hawkgirl, the only other woman in the Justice League, was not exactly her biggest fan and the others were men. She was not particularly close to anyone. She could not talk to others about what was tormenting her. The heroes looked at Diana with mild worry. Did she feel as alone as her other self? You always have us to talk to, Diana. Clark frowned. We might not be able to relate to the things a woman can, but you know we'll always be there for you whenever you need us. I know, Clark, Diana smiled gratefully. But most of the issues I have aren't the kind I can share with just anyone, teammate or not. Naruto did not have Kyuubi's negative emotion sensing, but he did not need a special skill to understand what she was going through at that moment. Although he had given up on trying to change people in the world a long time ago, his innate gift of connecting with people had never disappeared. Niji Hyuga, Gaara of the Sand, Nagato Uzumaki and even Obito Uchiha, they were people that used to hate him and even tried to maim or kill him, but they were all changed by him in the end. Mortal enemies became his best friends and even sacrificed their lives to right their wrongs. Kyuubi often laughed at him when they reminisced about their past, saying that his most powerful technique when he was young was not his Rasenshuriken but his Talk no Jutsu. Talk no Jutsu, huh? Kakashi chuckled. It was fitting in a comical manner. That's Naruto for you. Tsunade reached over to ruffle the blonde's hair with a grin. Although he was severely jaded, she could already tell the man on the screen wouldn't leave Diana to her problems. Cut it out. Naruto pushed her hand away. To be fair, you're a charismatic person, Diana complimented him. Kara nodded. And there's something about you that makes a person want to trust you. You have that look of someone who'd probably listen to all your problems and come up with a solution to them too. Naruto blushed a bit. Well, it can be a double-edged sword sometimes. But most of the time, it isn't, Clark said. The ability to sway people of all kinds to your side isn't one to be taken lightly. The strongest motivator isn't fear or admiration or love, it's loyalty. Diana nodded. I think it's a strong thing, what you have. It's as admirable a boon for a hero as it's terrifying in the hands of a villain. He had always had the talent of making people open up to him with but a few words. The same thing was happening with Diana in the present too. Despite that he was a stranger, she felt a strong urge to confide her circumstances to him, something that she had not done even with the rest of the Justice League. The fact that she did not have any close friends did not do her situation any favors either. All my life I believed that I had been sculpted from clay and given life by the gods. For thousands of years, my faith in them has never wavered. But now. Wonder Woman stopped as though she was afraid to continue talking because if she did, her words would be a blasphemy against the gods. Her lower lip trembled but her teeth sunk into it. It was in the wrong situation, but a voice in Naruto's head mentioned how hot the nervous Amazon looked. Crisis of faith, huh? Dinah smiled pityingly. Going against what she'd been raised to believe, even if justified, wasn't something that could be done easily. 2 weeks ago I found out everything was a lie. I was born like a normal baby but not in normal circumstances. My mother was raped by the king of the gods I used to worship. And now, his wife, one of the patron goddesses of the Amazons, will try to kill me the moment she finds out her husband cheated on her again. Where is the justice in that? These are the gods I worshipped for thousands of years. I'm fighting to protect justice in the name of a rapist and a lawless and murderous jealous wife that wants to kill me. Beings who consider themselves to be lords over a certain people never really consider justice when they're the culprits, Clark sighed. She let her back fall on the backrest of her chair. She was not crying but the defeat and powerlessness in her voice spoke volumes of her feelings. She was exhausted by her inner conflict between the faith she had been raised with and the cruel reality. 3,000 of years of blind faith in the gods could not be so easily erased from her heart despite her rationality speaking up against it. Kara pursed her lips when she saw Diana grab Naruto's hand. Can you hold the book well with one hand? The two parted hands with bashful smiles. That was better. She felt sorry for Diana, but come on. You said you left your paradise island about a year ago, right? Why did you leave it? What drove you to come out after 3,000 years? Naruto asked. Wonder Woman replied. A race of alien conquerors invaded the earth and almost conquered it. I came out to help everyone, to prevent that from happening. Naruto made a humming sound. Did your gods send you to do that? He asked. She shook her head in a negative. No. Actually, Amazons are forbidden to leave Themyscira. We are bound to guard that place for eternity. And you left. Naruto smiled. You defied your gods to help people. You're amazing. No, she's wonderful, Kara said. A wand. Clark jumped in. You've said this before, Kara. You don't even know what I was going to say. She grumbled, but went quiet. He almost smiled at her words. So you left your home against the will of the gods? It was a rhetorical question so he did not expect her to answer. He continued. You came out, against the will of your gods, to fight against the invaders. You didn't do it for the gods or in their name. You did it to protect the innocent. At those words, she raised her head and looked him in the eyes. Despite his rather scary appearance with his beast-like red slit eyes and thick black whisker-like marks on his face, at that moment, Wonder Woman did not feel any apprehension or trepidation when she looked at him. Naruto and Diana blushed. When taken out of context, the way the Amazon stared at his other self was almost intimate. I have a feeling and it is a good one. Dinah shook her shoulders with a teasing smile. Naruto seems to be a thing in the near future. Oliver formed a heart with his hands and placed it so that the two fit in both sides. It's the other them. Gaara said quickly. Nobody believed her. I can't put myself in your shoes. I can't imagine how it is to blindly believe in a god for thousands of years only to find out that he raped your mother. But what I can say is that the most important thing is to stay true to your values. It's not your origins that define you. It's not the gods who decide who you are. Your values and your actions are what define you as a person. Look at your past deeds and ask yourself again, who am I? I trust the answer will be much easier for you to find now. Savior Naruto delivers his wisdom once again. Oliver clasped his hands together in prayer. Naruto groaned. Oh come on, give it up. You shared wisdom in the first chapter and a few more times. Oliver said. You brought it on yourself, my friend. Put me on trial, lock me up but I'll beat it. Watch, I'll be out in days. A bald man said, but a green constructive light took the shape of cuffs around his wrists and he was thrown roughly to the ground. Even with the strength of his power suit, he could not break free. It's not looking good, bruv. Hal shook his head. He's kind of right though, Clark admitted. Lex has never spent up to a week in jail before. So that's Lex Luthor. Naruto stared at the armored man on the screen. He's very bald. Carol let out a relieved sigh. So I'm not the only one who first thought that when I saw him. See, Clark? It's not an insensitive statement. His baldness is caused by the cancer he got from kryptonite exposure. The same kryptonite he keeps using to try and kill you, Gaara specified. You can't seriously expect me to feel sorry for a guy who's killing himself to kill my family. Sorry I messed up back there. Flash apologized after Lex Luthor was taken by the police and arrested. Apology accepted, Superman said with a smile. After all, although Flash did make a mistake, it was still him who dismantled Lex Luthor's weapon and beat him down in the end. As soon as the damage is fixed. Barry snapped his fingers. Easy fix. Got a second? Flash said with a smirk, and a red blur put everything in the room in order in the blink of an eye. This speed thing never fails to amaze me every time I see it, Kakashi muttered. Like all the other times, he hasn't even seen the man move. Just then, a yellow portal was opened in the wall of the room and a green-skinned humanoid wearing a black suit and a dark blue cloak stepped out of it. Who are you? Martian Manhunter asked. I'm you, the newcomer replied. He was identical in looks with Martian Manhunter. He proceeded to explain that he was from another dimension and that both of their worlds were facing a crisis. Wait, Hal's eyes narrowed as he turned to look at Barry. You knew about this? You said of two Earths. Not this specifically, but there are some timelines where it happens. The speedster said. And you didn't think to tell us? Clark asked. What would it change? We are not in one of them. Barry told the man. Besides, the crisis doesn't involve much talking in the beginning. This isn't it. Then what's this? The speedster shrugged. And the dimensions appear to be collapsing on each other. Our Batman built this portal to try to find help. Batman. Hal repeated. No offense, Bats, but advanced machinery is usually Cyborg's thing. What happened to him? It's safe to say he's either not a League member there or he doesn't exist. Batman guessed. But what can we do? Green Lantern asked. We are not sure yet, the other dimension Martian replied. But my dimension seems to be at the center of it, and that would be the best place to start looking for an answer. While the other Martian was explaining his plan to the rest of the Justice League, Batman secretly asked Martian Manhunter. Have you read his mind yet? The heroes looked at Batman wearily. It's for a good reason, the caped crusader defended himself. We know, but damn. It's like the only time you ever talk to Jean is when there's a mind you want him to read. Oliver shook his head. Batman frowned. That wasn't true. Martians don't do that to one another. Jean Jones answered. Can't? Or won't? Batman asked. Both, he replied. I thought you Martians all communicate telepathically. Tsunade's suspicion was palpable. The woman hadn't forgotten about his attempt at poking his way into their minds. We do, but communication is on the surface level, Jean explained. To read a mind involves delving deeper. Without permission, it is an offense most of our kind deemed unforgivable. None of us did it to another without a solid reason. None of the ninjas questioned his use of past tenses. At that moment, Superman asked everyone. So it's agreed then, we go. Sure, okay. Flash agreed. Right, Hawkgirl said too. What about your dimension's Wonder Woman? The other Martian asked. Wonder Woman is indisposed at the moment. She is temporarily not taking part in the Justice League's activities. Martian Manhunter answered his counterpart. The Amazon glared at them. How could you leave me, comma? Clark fumbled for a response. On the upside, it means you can get closer to Naruto. That's not an upside. With everyone's approval, the Justice League followed the other dimension Martian into the portal. As the last two to enter, Batman and Martian Manhunter stopped before stepping through the portal. It might be for the best that Wonder Woman is not together with us, Batman said. Can you send her a telepathic message and inform her of the situation? Why? Do you think they are planning something? Martian Manhunter asked. I don't know. But it's always better to have insurance. Martian Manhunter looked at him blankly. Although he thought that Batman was just being his usual self, never fully trusting anyone, and despite that he did not have any reason to not trust his other self from the other dimension, he still did as Batman asked him and contacted Wonder Woman telepathically. At least they're telling you where they're going. Naruto tried to lift the woman's spirits. Yet. Usually I just come to the watchtower and see everyone gone, Oliver said with Dinah agreeing. They weren't in the Trinity nor were they founding members of the League, but they wanted to be kept in the loop too. Clark trailed off. Keep reading, Naruto. It's finished. Naruto closed the book. Say finis. Oliver lowered his head. Alnahia, Batman said. I'll read. Dinah closed her eyes. It's Jover. Kara sighed. Teledios. Diana closed her eyes too. Naruto looked at them weirdly. You guys are weird as hell.